of wild child 90s drinking era. I'm showing my age a bit. And, God, we drank a lot as teenage girls. I mean, it's actually shocking now in retrospect.
Well, I also think in terms of boys versus girls, I wonder if we've got a bit of a thing about... I mean, the old cliche that girls develop quicker, they can become social quicker. They can certainly get into the pub more easily because they look older, you know, because of makeup, etc. I wonder if the boys are all just, you know, in their rooms playing on their devices, as it were, you know, as people increasingly dominated by screens, whether, in fact, there's an issue about socialisation, about whether, in fact, you know, the lads are not out there socialising.
They have little sips of wine in France from the age of, like, 12, and they're absolutely fine about it. Whereas we all know what happens to British girls, because I was one of them. You turn, however, old enough to get a bottle of Smirnoff Ice, and boy, do you go for it, and until you're vomiting, basically.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Morning, 9:30 on Wednesday, the 8th of January, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
Good morning, thanks for joining us. So the war of words over the grooming scandal is rumbling on. Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips has told the tech billionaire Elon Musk to crack on with getting to Mars after he branded her a rape genocide apologist. This is what she said.
Being in the spotlight like this and the intimation of what Elon Musk is, the disinformation, as I believe the Prime Minister referred to it as, has put out about me, it's endangering.
Tory leader Kemi Badenoch is pushing ahead, demanding a new national inquiry into these rape gangs. The Prime Minister is whipping his MPs to vote against it.
And as flu cases soar, several NHS trusts in England have declared critical incidents with waits of up to 2 days in some A&E departments. What's really going on?
And tens of thousands of people, including some Hollywood actors, are being evacuated from their Los Angeles homes, ordered to leave as firefighters battle the deadly forest blaze.
Meanwhile, in Britain, the other extreme, temperatures are set to plummet. Hundreds of weather warnings for floods and ice are being issued. It just sounds like a normal winter, doesn't it, to us?
Certainly does. And there's been an outbreak of, stay with me on this, metapneumovirus in China. Oh dear, I haven't heard all this before. As Brits are warned to be alert to symptoms of a supposedly dangerous new flu-like virus, with children most at risk. Are we going to see the return of face masks? It's already happening in some hospitals.
And it's on a day like this that I am glad we're on GB News, because I can promise you, you go to all the other news channels and all you've got is fear, wall-to-wall fear-mongering. You're going to die in a flood, you're going to die from a virus. So we are going to give you some measured reality of what might be going on.
I'm also going to tell you what the Labour government is trying to do to wreck, in my view, our state schools today.
Massive day for education. Today. Yeah, absolutely. gbnews.com/your say. It's going to be a belter. We're here until midday. First, though, the very latest news with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom. It's just gone 9:30. The top story this hour. Well, Elon Musk has been accused of making ridiculous claims about grooming gangs, with Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips telling him to crack on with getting to Mars. It comes as the scandal in Rotherham is back in the spotlight, with details revealing children as young as just 11 were brutally abused by organised gangs. Downing Street, though, says the Prime Minister is working to protect children and halve violence against women. But Reform UK's Nigel Farage has threatened an unofficial inquiry if the government doesn't act soon. Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer has accused Conservative MPs of putting retweets over protecting children by pushing for a new investigation into child grooming. Kemi Badenoch, the Tory leader, is backing a plan to launch another inquiry, even though a major investigation wrapped up in 2022 and made key recommendations. The Prime Minister says this could delay crucial child safety laws and called the move short-sighted in an interview with The Mirror. Labour ministers argue it's time to act on existing recommendations like mandatory reporting of abuse rather than starting another new review. Critics, including the journalist who exposed the Rotherham grooming scandal, also say another inquiry won't help victims get justice. In other news, police are hunting for a killer after a 14-year-old boy was stabbed to death in south-east London in what's being called a horrendous crime. The teenager was attacked on a bus in Woolwich on Tuesday afternoon and died shortly after medics arrived at the scene. No arrests have been made so far, but cordons and road closures remain in place as inquiries continue. The Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, has called the stabbing heartbreaking and said it has no place in the City of London. It comes just a day after an unrelated stabbing left another 18-year-old man fighting for his life in the same area. Well, let's turn to the latest developments over in the United States, where a state of emergency has been declared as massive wildfires are sweeping through Los Angeles in California, forcing thousands to flee those flames. Firefighters are battling fierce winds that are turning homes into what can be best described as raging infernos. Over 30,000 residents have so far been evacuated, with more than 13,000 buildings now in danger as the flames approach. And the latest pictures show neighbourhoods engulfed in flames as people abandon their cars and run for safety. With millions of Californians on high alert, federal resources have been deployed to help contain the blaze. And staying in the United States, President-elect Donald Trump has suggested the US could use military or economic force to acquire Greenland and Panama Canal. During a wide-ranging press conference, Trump also proposed naming the Gulf of Mexico, renaming it to the Gulf of America. Take a listen.
We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name.
Well, those comments from Trump came as his son, Donald Trump Jr., visited Greenland, where local leaders firmly stated the island is not for sale. Trump's remarks have also left many questioning his serious intent to expand US territory, with Denmark and Panama strongly rejecting his claims. And back here at home, calls for a retrial in the Lucy Letby case will be debated in Parliament. Conservative MP Sir David Davis believes new evidence could overturn the former nurse's convictions and has spent months reviewing the case. Letby, who's serving life for murdering 7 babies and trying to kill 6 more, denies all the charges against her. Her lawyers say a key medical expert's testimony wasn't reliable and are now pushing for an appeal. The debate in Parliament will explore the use of expert witnesses, with the government expected to respond. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you at the top of the hour. Now, though, it's over to Andrew and Bev.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Very good morning. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner, all across the world.
We are all across the world. Now, the weather's here, freezing and wet. It's January. Funny that. In California, curiously, and it is an odd because the temperature in January in California is normally around 70 degrees in the afternoon, a state of emergency has been declared because of a lethal combination of windstorms and wildfires.
That's right. It's a bizarre story for January. 30,000 people have been forced to evacuate their homes. There have been no casualties reported so far. But let's go to journalist and PR consultant Adrian Schwartz, who is over there this morning. Good morning, Adrian.
Good morning.
Good morning. Now, I believe we can't see you. That's why you're on the phone. We're going to show some images of the fires, I think, because the signal is not great where you are, understandably, because I imagine a lot of the infrastructure will have been damaged and gone down. Tell us what's happened to you.
Well, to me, it's been pretty devastating watching what's going on for everybody. You know, my children's high school burned down, the middle school burned down. We had the Getty Villa burned all around it. The Bel Air Bay Club, which is 100 years old, is gone. It's true devastation.
And what about your own home, Adrian? Have you had to move? Have they told you to get out as well?
Yes, so we've all evacuated. I'm actually in Palm Springs now because no one can stay around. They've basically evacuated everybody, and no one has any electricity anyway. It's blackout. And if you go outside, the skies are bright red. There's just fire everywhere.
So are you worried about your own home?
I mean, I am worried about my home. I think I'm more worried about the people.
Sure.
I mean, I did try. I think the odd thing about something like this is when you leave, you don't really know what to take with you. It's till that moment where you sort of grab photos and then you think, oh, well, you know, what do I take that's worth something? And then you're packing things that you think, it's really a scary feeling. So we're out, but honestly, there has been no containment because the winds are so strong, the flames just keep jumping and moving across.
Now, the average temperature in California at this time of the year, Adrienne, is normally just 20 degrees. I mean, that's mild. Why now? Why these fires in January?
Well, so we definitely have fires. I mean, that's what we get here in California. You know, in Florida, they get hurricanes. But this doesn't make sense. And I think a lot of people are concerned that the fires were set because of that. We knew that it was going to be really horrible winds. So if anyone's the type of person that would do that, this would be the time that they've chosen.
And just to interrupt, you're saying arson. You're saying the suspicion is it's been started by arsonists deliberately.
Right. That's what people's fear is, because why would there be, it's very spread out and the fires are so close to town. Usually when we have a fire, they're brush fires. This is different. It's all within our town. We're losing, you know, buildings and schools, and it's really frightening. I mean, and, you know, it's a celebrity, you know, area. And so we have Steve Guttenberg helping people in Pacific Palisades on the main drag get their cars out. They had to bulldoze cars out of the street so that people could evacuate.
I mean, this area, people who live there include Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, Tom Hanks have houses in these areas, of course. So the fallout from this could be very high profile. A lot of these celebrities taking to X this morning to describe having to leave their home. James Wood, the actor, has said it feels like losing a loved one, describing evacuating his home. How is it being treated over there by the press in America, Adrienne?
I mean, no one's allowed to go anywhere near it. Everyone's running the other way. Although Heidi Montag and Spencer Pratt, I don't know if you guys know who they are, they lost their home.
Right. Can I ask a really, I hope it's not a too personal question, are homes covered on insurance on something like this?
Yes.
Or is it seen as an act of God?
Most of these are, yes. Homes are covered for insurance. You really do have to have insurance in California for your home. So a lot of the homes will be covered, and obviously the areas that are burning are really wealthy areas. So I hate to say it, but people don't feel very sorry for the celebrities.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's
isn't how it should be. It's not fair.
No, and of course, Adrienne, what we don't know yet is if there are casualties and if there are going to be any fatalities. Because some people, of course, probably will have resisted calls to evacuate.
Yes, because here's the thing. No one believes that it actually will hit the homes there.
Exactly.
Because this has never happened. It's never this close. And even trying to get my children, who are old enough to know better, they said, oh, no, we're not leaving. I had to force everybody into the car.
Yeah, it's not a baking August day, is it, where you might all feel the presence of it? This looks like this happened quite quickly. How quickly did it happen, Adrienne? Was it a slow burner, or was it something that literally happened within a matter of hours?
Well, it started this morning. So all of a sudden this morning, the whole sky started to turn black with smoke. And then you started, anywhere you sort of drove in the neighborhood, the wind kept picking up, and you started seeing the actual fire. So it started this morning, and during the day, you'd start to look down alleys and streets, and the mountains were just fully on fire. So it's really taken hold, and they're not dropping water, although I've heard that they're flying firefighters from all over the country here to help us.
Extraordinary.
Well, Adrienne, look, thank you so much for sharing this, and it's a very difficult time for you, so we wish you the best of luck, and to you and your family, and that's an extraordinary story.
Thank you, Adrienne. Yeah, extraordinary.
And how appalling if it has been started by a deranged arsonist.
I bet they're blaming climate change, though. That's what they will be. They'll all be blaming climate change.
Well,
but yeah, absolutely appalling. You've been getting in touch at home. Broken Shadow said it's not unusual for fires to burn in the winter. He says he's an ex-firefighter. I presume it's a he. What is unusual for them is to start and to get to a level where they spread.
Yeah.
And another few other people...
Strong wind is a factor.
Yeah, and Ian said US celebrities' homes up in flames. It'd be fascinating if it's eventually linked to the Epstein files. That might be using your imagination a bit too much.
Look, there are celebrities there, but 30,000 people have been told to get out of their homes. There's lots of people who are carers and doctors and nurses and teachers. What I would say, ordinary folk, this is having a huge impact.
Our very regular viewer, Grumpy Grandad, has said, I'm not too worried about celebrities losing their homes. They'll have insurance. It's not nice, but at least they have the money to make things better, which is exactly what we're saying.
Of course, some of the people won't have insured their homes, because they won't be able to afford it.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. Now, moving on, the Conservatives are pushing today for a full inquiry into the rape gang scandal. Bit late, in my opinion.
Yeah, but the Prime Minister is whipped his MPs to vote against it in a Commons vote this afternoon. Professor Alexis Jay, who led the 7-year probe into all aspects of child abuse, says victims want action, not another inquiry.
Whereas Jane Senior MBE, that's the youth worker who blew the whistle on Britain's grooming gang epidemic, says that we do need an inquiry as long as action is taken against those who turned a blind eye to what was happening at the time.
Let's speak to counter-extremism and safeguarding expert Philip Grindle. Philip, good morning to you. What we're all agreed on is the rape gangs, the grooming gangs. It was an appalling scandal that shames this country. And Jay said in her report, there is no doubt whatsoever that people in authority, social services, the police, councils turned a blind eye because they were worried about the racial sensitivities, because most of the perpetrators were of Pakistani heritage. But did her inquiry go far enough? Because it looked at the rape gangs in about 6 towns. We know that it was closer to 40 to 50 towns.
Yes, good morning. I think actually the challenge is the report was too broad in its scope. It seemed to trying to tackle everything. Yeah. And with regards to the specific topic that you're referring to in terms of the Asian gangs, it actually didn't really mention them. It kind of grouped them into a small paragraph section around organised crime and organised networks, but didn't actually tackle the specific issue of Asian gangs. And so when the Prime Minister tries to portray anybody that's talking about that as being from the extreme right wing, I think he's wrong in 2 areas. Certainly, firstly, when I first went into Parliament after Joe Cox to protect MPs, one of the first things we ended up doing was actually looking after Labour MPs who were being targeted because they were raising concerns around these Asian sex gangs. So, you know, there's no question they were not extreme right-wing proponents. So that's the first element. The second element is there is clearly a hunger for more information and more detail around this specific topic of the Asian sex gangs. And when we look at the volume of victims that's included in that, and then we look at the volume of evidence that's provided within the report and the number of people that they interview, particularly when they're looking at the perpetrator methodology, it's a very, very small subset. So I think
Can I just step in here? I think we've got to be careful what we say here. I don't think we should say Asian gangs. I think we've got to say quite specifically these are Pakistani heritage gangs, because Asia's a very large continent. We don't want to besmirch all of them. But it's, from what you're saying, it seems to me that Jay fell for the same error that we are accusing social services and police leaders and council leaders of doing, in not getting to grips with the fact this was being carried out by men of Pakistani heritage and why they were doing it.
I agree with you, and you're absolutely right to call me out about the finality bit, because previous research actually looks at the different demographics within the Asian subcontinent and identifies very specifically that it was in fact predominantly Pakistani males that were involved. So you're right to say that. Listen, I think we have to look at what was the scope and the purpose of that report. And it clearly wasn't to tackle the issue that everyone's talking about now. But all the time that the Prime Minister says, oh, it's, you know, anyone who mentions it's an extreme right-wing perpetrator, actually what he's missing the point. As long as he leaves that gap there, that gap will be filled by extreme right-wing people. And so we need to tackle the issues there to actually say, to understand the issues, understand what the problems are, and that closes down perhaps some of the arguments that the extreme right-wing are using.
It's a very good point, actually, because people were frightened to mention this because they were scared of being called racist. Now they'll be frightened to mention it in case they're called far right. It's the same thing. Philip, we've got to take a really quick break, but I think you're going to stay with us, aren't you? Just for a moment. I'm so sorry.
We've got to go to the weather.
We've got more to talk about, but we need to take a little quick break into the weather. Here it is.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast. If you're looking to escape the cold weather in the UK and find some winter sun, well, you're in luck. Fine for many parts of southern Europe. And it's looking like there'll be some warm sunshine for the Canaries as well as Madeira. But for Portugal and Spain, particularly towards the north, there'll be some showery rain, more especially parts of the south of France seeing some wet weather. Snow for the Alps there, showers for Italy, and indeed there will be some showers across parts of Greece during the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
And fashionistas are keen to see which new trends are set to hit the catwalk.
Well, our next guest is very well placed to share her predictions with us after being a contestant on hit ITV series Dress the Nation, as well as being an upcycling and sewing consultant.
Wow. Joining us now is Tendai Murewe. I want to go back to you appearing on the ITV Dress the Nation.
Right.
Tell us about that experience. What was that like?
Oh, that was one of my highlights as a upcycling consultant. I learned to sew in my kitchen 5 years ago. And then, during COVID, just making masks. Then the next thing I was on a Dress the Nation, making dresses in front of TV. Yeah, it was just incredible. I think we all had all these clothes that we have, but we don't know what to do with them. So mainly I started with men's jackets, taking off the sleeves and putting it like a print on.
I've tried this. I've tried taking off my sleeves before. I now have about 3 jackets with no sleeves. I never managed to put them back on.
You need to come to a workshop. You need to come to a workshop.
I need an upcycling consultant. 2025. What can we expect, fashion-wise?
I think bold prints are back. People are loving. I think you walk on the streets in frollals and oversized men's jackets.
So the exact opposite. We have drastically underperformed this morning. You're just saying not like us.
We just woke up this morning and thought it's winter, it's cold, it's grey.
Grey, miserable.
Is that not the way to go?
No, it is. It's still, I think because fashion is expressive. It's whatever you want to express yourself.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Let's go straight back to our counter-extremism and safeguarding expert, Philip Grindle. Philip, we've got this vote today in the Commons on this, whether there should be an inquiry, and the government are whipping it, so it's not going to happen. Would this have been a way in which the people like Jane Senior, who was the youth worker who blew the whistle on this whistleblowing, on this scandal, would this be the way that we could identify the people who in authority who did turn a blind eye to these gangs, which allowed them to carry on their disgusting, evil trade? And if they were then exposed, they could be prosecuted and maybe even put in jail, which is where they should be.
Yeah, I think we have to go back to looking at what the scope is. And again, if the government were to allow such an inquiry, it would then depend on what the scope of that inquiry was and what the direction they try to push it. They've clearly got some kind of political agendas, and they're not going to want to harm their own position. So, again, it's all very well saying we're going to have another inquiry if that's what they do, but it's about the scope of the inquiry. What actually are they trying to achieve? How deep is it going to go? And, in terms of your question, Andrew, are they seeking to address the very issues that you're talking about?
OK, all right, thank you. We're glad you hang on for us there, Philip. Counter-extremism and safeguarding expert. Do you know how much we know how much taxpayers' money we spend on inquiries in this country? £100 million a year.
It's because they drag on forever.
It's ridiculous.
And they shouldn't let drag on forever.
It's awful. Well, a government spokesperson from the Home Office has said this. No child should ever suffer sexual abuse or exploitation. And it is paramount we do more to protect vulnerable children. I think we can file that under the flipping obvious. Plenty more to come this morning. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News. Here's Aidan with the weather.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's another cold start to the day, widely below freezing, but a sunshine and wintry showers sort of day expected for many. However, we are keeping our eye on a system that's moving up from the southwest, bringing some rain, sleet and snow. More on that in a moment. For the time being, we've got further sleet and snow showers moving into the north of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Fewer compared with the last couple of days, but still some significant snow building up across northern Scotland, particularly over hills, and it's going to stay cold. It's going to feel especially cold in the northerly wind across northern parts of the UK, but plenty of sunshine elsewhere. However, through the afternoon and into the evening, we are watching out for this area of rain, sleet and snow likely to affect southern counties of England. Now, worst case scenario is this will bring a decent covering across southern counties of England, leading to a lot of disruption. But more likely is it will be a patchy, slight covering of snow for most, with any more significant snow confined to the likes of Dartmoor or Salisbury Plain. The more significant snow continues across the north of Scotland, particularly around coastal areas, as well as parts of Northern Ireland into North Wales and North West England. And as this system pulls away by the end of the night, well, it's going to turn frosty and indeed icy widely across the UK, with once again temperatures down to -3 to -5 Celsius. Most places seeing those kinds of temperatures, but in some spots, particularly where we've got snow cover further north, minus double figures are possible. That means another freezing start to the day on Thursday. Plenty of sunshine and a crisp winter's day for the vast majority is expected. So it's going to stay dry with sunny skies in many southern, central and eastern parts of the country. But again, northern Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, perhaps Wales seeing further sleet, snow and hail showers. It stays cold until the end of the week before it turns much milder into the weekend.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Murray, the A939 is closed each way in the Cairngorms between Cockbridge and Tomintoul because of snow. Snow also affecting a number of routes over high ground in the north of England, particularly in the Peak District, with a number of roads closed. Buses replaced trains between Llandudno Junction and Blaenau for Stiniog for emergency engineering works after a tree fell on the line earlier. In Powys, the A490 is closed each way between Coedidinus and Frome because of flooding. On the M6 in the West Midlands, 2 lanes are closed northbound, where a lorry's broken down between junctions 5 and 6 towards Spaghetti Junction, Birmingham, with queues from junction 4. The A470 head to the Valleys Road is closed each way northwest of Merthyr Tydfil because of an accident. In Essex on the A12 there's a lane closed southbound just after junction 17 near Chelmsford after an accident causing delays. And in London, Woolwich Church Street's closed for an investigation. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
£50,000 in tax-free cash is like having over £4,000 each month to play with for a whole year. And it could be yours in the biggest Great British giveaway so far. That could be a holiday each month, your mortgage covered, or just the ability to send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
10 a.m. Wednesday, the 8th of January, live across the United Kingdom and, in fact, the world. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
Well, the war of words over the grooming scandal, it will rumble on and on. The safeguarding minister, Jess Phillips, she's told the tech billionaire Elon Musk, get this, to crack on with getting to Mars, especially on one of his rockets, after he branded her a rape genocide apologist. This is what she said.
Being in the spotlight like this and the intimation of what Elon Musk is, the disinformation, as I believe the Prime Minister referred to it as, has put out about me, it's endangering.
In the spotlight, it happens. Right, Tory leader Kemi Badenoch is pushing for a new national inquiry as the Prime Minister demands his MPs vote against the idea.
Yes, we're now into the 8th day of this row. Both Labour and Conservatives accusing the others of neglecting the safety of children. There may or may not be a vote in the Commons on this later. I'll bring you the details shortly.
Well, that's interesting. I thought the vote was definitely happening. Now, a 14-year-old boy has been stabbed to death in broad daylight on a bus in southeast London. The killer is still on the loose. What's happening on our streets?
Awful story.
And now a manhunt begins here in London after the 14-year-old boy was killed yesterday on that bus. No arrests have yet been made. Police describing this as a horrifying crime.
And apparently flu cases are soaring. Several NHS trusts in England have declared critical incidents with waits of up to 2 days in some A&E departments. But does this all start with GPs?
And extraordinary images from Hollywood. Tens of thousands of people, including some actors, have been told to evacuate from their Los Angeles homes as firefighters battle deadly forest blaze.
What did you make of Jess Phillips' reaction?
Well, she, like a lot of women in politics, gets a lot of abuse, and she says that Elon Musk has made her a target for even more abuse. But that's the job she's doing.
Yeah, you're in the public eye. It happens, and I can't bear the idea that she's casting herself as the victim in all this.
Yeah.
When the real victims are the people who we need to protect.
Thousands and thousands of children. They were children.
Yeah, I think Jess Phillips has done a lot, actually, for women. I do. She is the wrong target, and Elon Musk did pick the wrong person, actually.
And it was intemperate language, too.
It was, but this is what happens in... I get really frustrated by female politicians being a little bit poor me, poor me. You're in the public eye. It's going to happen. Toughen up. Let us know your thoughts this morning. gbnews.com/yoursay. First, the very latest news with Sam Prentice.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom. Just coming up to 4 minutes past 10. The top story this morning, Elon Musk has been accused of making ridiculous claims about grooming gangs here in the UK, with Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips telling the billionaire to crack on with getting to Mars. It comes as the scandal in Rotherham is now back in the spotlight, with details revealing that children as young as 11 were brutally abused by organised gangs. Downing Street says the Prime Minister is working to protect children and halve violence against women. But Reform UK's Nigel Farage has threatened an unofficial inquiry if the government doesn't act soon. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister has accused Conservative MPs of putting retweets over protecting children by pushing for a new investigation into child grooming. Tory leader Kemi Badenoch is backing a plan to launch another inquiry, even though a major investigation already wrapped up in 2022 and made key recommendations at the time. Sir Keir Starmer says this could delay crucial child safety laws and called the move short-sighted. Labour ministers argue it's time instead to act on existing recommendations like mandatory reporting of abuse rather than starting another review. Well, Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson has been speaking to us here on GB News this morning. She said it's time to act on those existing recommendations.
We had a national inquiry. The Conservatives launched that. It took 7 years, over £100 million, came out with many recommendations. What we need is action. That's what the chair of that investigation has called for. That's what we are determined to deliver, and that's why the measures that we're setting out today are all about keeping children safe. This is nothing short of political opportunism from the Conservatives. If they had their way, if what they've set out today were to happen, then all of the measures in this legislation to keep children safe would be stopped, stone dead, and will be blocked. I think that's utterly disgusting.
And let's just bring you a quick piece of breaking news away from those grooming gang issues this morning. Breaking from the Metropolitan Police, we're hearing that 2 complaints from victims of the allegations against Mohammed Al-Fayed back in 2008 will be investigated. That comes as the Met Police is currently reviewing a total of 21 allegations that were made before Mr Al-Fayed died in 2023. But as I say, we're just hearing that 2 of those complaints from victims into the force's handling of allegations against former Harrods boss Mohammed Al-Fayed are going to be investigated by the police watchdog. We'll keep across any more details on that as it develops throughout the rest of today. Well, in other news from the Met Police as well, police force here are hunting for a killer after a 14-year-old boy was stabbed to death in south-east London in what's being called a horrendous crime. The teenager was attacked on a bus in Woolwich on Tuesday afternoon and sadly died shortly after medics arrived. No arrests, though, have been made, but cordons and road closures remain in place as inquiries continue. The Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, has called the stabbing heartbreaking. It comes just a day after an unrelated stabbing left another 18-year-old man fighting for his life in the same area. A state of emergency has been declared in California as a massive wildfire sweeps through Los Angeles, forcing thousands to flee the flames. Firefighters are currently battling fierce winds into the night that are turning homes into raging infernos. Over 30,000 residents have been evacuated so far. More than 13,000 buildings are also still in danger. Well, the latest pictures show neighbourhoods engulfed in flames as people abandon their cars and have been seen running for safety. With millions of Californians now on high alert, federal resources have also been deployed to help contain the blaze. And staying in the United States, President-elect Donald Trump has suggested the US could use military or economic force to acquire Greenland and the Panama Canal. During a wide-ranging press conference last night, Trump also proposed renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name.
Those comments come as his son, Donald Trump Jr., visited Greenland, where local leaders firmly stated the island is not for sale. Trump's remarks have left many now questioning his serious intent to expand US territory, with Denmark and Panama strongly rejecting his claims. And back here, England is bracing for snow as a fresh yellow weather warning comes into force today. The Met Office says we can expect up to 10 centimetres to fall in some areas, with southern counties and parts of South London's likely to see disruption right through until midnight. It comes as 300 properties have already flooded across England since New Year's Eve, despite efforts protecting over 40,000 homes. And the coldest nights of the year are also expected, with temperatures plummeting to minus 16 degrees in Scotland and the North East later this week. Roads, railways and airports are already affected, though, and authorities are urging people to stay vigilant. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Britain's newsroom.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good morning. Apparently, all the chatter in the newsroom behind us, Andrew Pearce, is the fact that we're matching today. I think this is the first time we've ever matched our sartorial elegance.
It's a complete coincidence.
It's not
obviously.
actually.
Oh, OK.
I saw him on the telly this morning when he's cheating on me with his other channel first thing in the morning. This morning's the first time I turned on. I thought, what's he wearing? It's a very nice tie, by the way.
Thank you.
So I thought, I have a dress that will match that. I can't promise this is going to happen every day because I don't normally have time to watch you in the morning.
But did you notice people watching? And if you're on the radio listening to us, I've got what would you call this? It's a pink and pink,
sort of
a pink,
cerise,
magenta?
pinky magenta. Where's Ellie Costello when you need her?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a pinky colour. Anyway, it's worth looking on just to see how fabulous we look.
We do. There we are. Now, we've got lots of emails coming. Are they talking about our attire? Probably not.
They are not listening. Good morning. Has said, why are we still using the word grooming to describe these rape gangs on an industrial scale?
We are calling them rape gangs on this programme, for sure.
Yeah. John has said Donald Trump is starting to look his age now. I know he did this press conference yesterday, didn't he? That went on for about an hour. Yeah. And he said all sorts of hilarious things,
really
like he's going to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America.
And he might use military force to take Greenland under American control.
I love him.
News to Denmark, which owns Greenland.
I love him. Honestly, it's going to be so entertaining. 20th of January, he's going to be Prime Minister, President again.
He's going to be there.
I'm going to be there at the inauguration, hopefully talking to you at home and hopefully talking to you here as well. And it's going to be great. I can't wait to have him back in the White House. Do you know what I can't wait to see? Russia, Ukraine, what happens there? Middle East, what happens there?
What I thought was really interesting, what he said about the Middle East, he said if those hostages in Gaza, because some of them are American, are not freed, there will be hell to pay. There is no prospect now of any early end to that war in Gaza. And frankly, why should there be? Because...
No prospect to the early end?
Early end, yeah.
Well, if
because
he comes
Hamas started it, and Hamas have not released those hostages.
The thing is, I think there will be an early end, because I think Donald Trump will come in and just sort it all out, don't you?
Well, maybe.
He's very pro-Israel, obviously. Anna says, Jess Phillips has been a foul-mouthed, gobby irritant for years. She says a lot about Starmer. It says a lot about Starmer putting her in that ministerial position. It's incredible that now she's in place to finally tackle the issue of rape gang violence. She's towing the party line. She's neither courageous or intellectually equipped to manage this brief, and she should resign. Tell us what you really think, Anna.
Yeah. Well, talking of that Jess Phillips has hit back at Elon Musk because he did call her I thought the language was intemperate, he called her a rape genocide apologist because she refused to give government funding to an inquiry which was sought by the council in Oldham into their own rape gangs. This is what she said in an interview last night.
Being in the spotlight like this and the intimation of what Elon Musk is, the disinformation, as I believe the Prime Minister referred to it as, has put out about me, it's endangering.
It's endangering you. I just want to be absolutely clear. Are you saying that as a result of some of Musk's tweets, that the threat to you has gone up and things are in place to protect your safety? Yes.
Give me strength. Where's your evidence for that? I find that very, very hard to believe. When you are a woman in the public eye, particularly when you are an MP as a woman, you're going to get a lot of flack. You're going to get a lot. And sometimes it might come from the richest man in the world. That comes with the job. And she either had to come out swinging and take him on and explain why he was wrong. Don't just be all mealy-mouthed and be like, well, that was misinformation. Tell him down the lens why he's wrong. Take him on, stand up for yourself. Or don't comment. That's your choice. Don't comment. Because by doing that interview, she made herself look like she's the victim here. Don't comment and say, I want all the focus to be on the victims of these grooming gangs.
Exactly. They're
rape
victims.
gangs.
Thousands and thousands of white girls, and some of them were boys too. Some of them were children because they were as young as 11 years old, who were systematically raped by gangs of mainly Pakistani heritage. Now, the Tories are pushing for this full inquiry into the scandal today. They are pushing for a Commons vote. Labour opposing it.
Do you know what I mean, though, about Jess Phillips? I feel like when you're a woman like that, and Elon Musk was wrong in that she hasn't been the key protagonist in this. She has done quite a lot over the years to protect women and girls, and she's really tried. So say that, Jess Phillips, like really make it clear. Come out with a list of things that you've done, and then don't comment on Elon Musk.
Yeah, and also the Tories blocked another public inquiry. They set up the J inquiry, which didn't, in my view, have the right terms of reference, because as we spoke to our guest earlier, only a small part of it dealt with the fact that Pakistani heritage gangs were behind these terrible rapes.
And also, if it wasn't for GBNews, we wouldn't be talking about this.
No.
Remember that. If it wasn't for Charlie Peters and all the digging that he's done, nobody across the world would be discussing those girls right now. So, frankly, she should have also said in that interview, I'd just like to thank GBNews for putting this back on the news agenda.
She's never going to do that, is she? Let's talk to our political correspondent, Catherine Forster, in Westminster. Catherine, I was surprised when you were on earlier, Catherine, saying that maybe this vote won't happen after all. Explain what's going on.
Well, what I meant was that there is a bill going through Parliament, which is the Children's Wellbeing and Schools Bill. It's having its second reading, and there will be a vote on that at the end of the day. But the vote that I was talking about may or may not happen is the vote that the Conservatives are trying to force on the issue of these rape gangs, calling for a nationwide statutory inquiry. Now, the way they're trying to get this is they're tabling an amendment, and it's up to the Speaker if he selects it or if he doesn't. We'll know hopefully in the next hour. Even if he does select it, it's going to fail simply because of the maths. The Conservatives will vote for it. Labour will vote against it. They are being whipped to do so. But it's about, I think, for the Conservatives, sort of putting a mark in the sand, trying to create a clear dividing line. Labour, of course, saying, look, you've had 14 years to act on child sexual exploitation, grooming gangs and so on and so forth. You haven't put these recommendations into practice. We're now getting on with it. But of course, Labour are saying that there is no need for a new inquiry. They're saying that it would slow everything down. And I'm not quite clear on why that is, because Labour have just announced another review into social care. We've had many of them. There was a plan that the Tories had ready to go, which they have scrapped, and they're conducting a review into social care. So how is it that social care can wait, and they say that they're still getting on with stuff, but they can do the review? But for these rape gangs, there is no need. I find that really, really curious. And on Jess Phillips, I think worth saying, first of all, it took her a week, didn't it, to publicly talk about this. She's clearly very shaken. We know that a 39-year-old man yesterday has been charged with malicious communication. But of course, ultimately, this is not about her. This is about those thousands and thousands of girls who have been horrifically raped, tortured, and in some cases killed. And for whatever you think about Elon Musk, if it hadn't been for Charlie Peters, GBNews, and Elon Musk taking a hold of this and amplifying it, this has put a rocket under politicians of all stripes. Let's hope that something will come of it, because, you know, the Times first uncovered this about 15 years ago. They yesterday called for an inquiry, and the Times did point out that for all Jess Phillips' work on supporting women against violence, she is an MP that does have a constituency with a large Muslim population, and that may be a factor. And the Times finished their leader column by saying the government cannot risk dismissing genuine concerns simply for its own political protection.
I think she had a majority of something like 600 votes in her constituency, didn't she, in the last general election?
Her vote collapsed.
Tiny.
There was a swing of about 30%, and she had an independent Muslim candidate stood against her. So, obviously, Catherine, you're right. There will be anxiety in everything she does about anything she does which could be seen to alienate the Muslim community. So she calls for a new public inquiry, which will be talking about Pakistani heritage men. Many of those men are in her constituency.
It's incredibly difficult, and this was put to her last night in an interview on television. She said that that was absolute rubbish to suggest that. But yes, her majority was slashed, and Labour had a really rough time during the general election campaign and since, with a lot of its normal voters and the Muslim community who turned against them because of their stance on Gaza. I was with Starmer, I think, in Stoke on the branded bus, which he didn't get very often for security reasons. When we came out of one of his events, it was the middle of the day. There was a group of about 15 pro-Palestine supporters with flags, etc. And as we went to the bus, they were shouting at us that we were baby murderers. Labour politicians, it's been very difficult for them on that score as well. So you can see why this is all very, very problematic.
OK, thank you, Catherine. Catherine Forster there down at Westminster. Now, as you know, we love to hear from you at home. Our poll of the day today is asking, as another teenager is stabbed in London, it's a 14-year-old coming home from school yesterday, is knife crime out of control in Britain's capital? The final result will be announced later today in Martin Daubney's show.
For all our latest polls, news and how to vote, just go to gbnews.com/poll. Plenty more to come this morning, including...
That's right. We're going to go back to California, where fast-moving wildfires are being swept through Los Angeles in January. We spoke to one resident earlier who said the speculation is that the fires were started deliberately and the winds there have whipped them up. Lots of houses being evacuated, frankly, burnt to the ground. Don't go anywhere. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
We've got a special treat for you because we can show you this lovely video of a lady running on a beach. So you're not missing much if you're listening on the radio. It is literally a woman in white writing on the beach, writing 2025.
Yes, because that's the year we're in now.
Is it?
Yes,
Wow.
and it's because Meghan Markle returned to Instagram yesterday.
Former world correspondent for The Sun, Charles Ray, joins us now. Are you inspired to remember the year, Charles?
Oh, Happy New Year to you too as well. I honestly haven't got a clue what she's doing now. You know, I would have thought we should have had the theme tune from Jaws as she was running down to the water there and everything else. They're being quite hypocritical here because they came off social media because they were getting unparalleled abuse. I don't condone at all. It is not right whatsoever. And they've spent the last few years complaining about social media.
We've seen her before with her lifestyle blog, haven't we? Before she met Prince Harry, she was running a successful blog. Do you think she wants to go back to doing that sort of thing?
I think it's possible that that's what she wants to do. I mean, I don't understand how these things work, okay? But all I know is that certain influencers earn an awful lot of money from Instagram and everything else. Now, they're talking about figures. I mean, whether this is true or not, I've something like £790,000 she could earn per post. You know, so it's quite incredible what she can possibly earn out of this. It's interesting, though, Stephen and Ellie, that she's actually switched off all the comments on this one.
I noticed that.
Clearly, she doesn't want She doesn't want to have anybody on there saying anything nasty or anything good about it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
Very good morning. Welcome back. Stephen Pound and Mike Parry are here, already making a lot of noise in the studio.
Yes.
I'm going to get my best head teacher's voice on.
I love it when you're strict.
Right, let's talk about the NHS, shall we? Patients facing 2-day waits in A&E. Isn't this, Mike, about the fact that nobody can go and see their GP? And therefore, they're just rocking up to A&E and thinking that's where I'll go for a sore throat.
Well, I think it's a bit of that, but I also think that we're into what I call COVID panic. At the first sign of, you know what I mean? Oh, I'm off to A&E.
Does it go?
It goes just like that, yeah. And we'll rush off to the hospital because if you think about it, and I think I heard this discussion this morning, when does a cold turn into a flu?
Well,
When's a bad cold turn into flu?
When a man has it.
And who can diagnose flu?
If flu is bad, if you have real flu, you can't get out of bed.
No, exactly.
A lot of these people have got a heavy cold.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, the true flu is limbs so heavy they don't work and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Headache and double vision and all that.
And you get it very rarely.
Yeah, but people, it's the lead-swinging society, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I've got a bit of a sniffle. I've got the flu. I better ring the boss and stay off work.
Yeah.
If you ever bother going to work, because you might work from home.
Which meant hundreds of schools were closed yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we had a bit of snow and some flooding.
Exactly. In crisis is flu spikes. Well, you could solve that crisis by saying to most people who walk through the door, you haven't got the flu, get lost. Yeah.
I think it's fascinating that the government is talking about establishing sort of, local hubs, which used to be called GP surgeries.
They did.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Diagnostic centres now.
Diagnostics. Oddly enough, those polyclinics are a very good idea. They actually do work brilliantly.
What's a polyclinic?
Yeah, a polyclinic is a small specialised medical area where you can actually have a day treatment for operations. It's like a small centre of excellence.
I totally agree.
Like a cottage hospital? Is that what we used to call no?
People used to say that everybody wanted open heart surgery, but in a cottage hospital. What a polyclinic is a poly just means the many. So it has many specialisms.
Like polytechnic.
And it's indeed, precisely. Well, hopefully a bit more successful. Anyway,
polyamorous.
So he goes polyamorous, you go polytechnic, I go polyparrot. But look, what slightly worries me about this is not just that there's a new virus, but if you look at the pictures coming from China, we've been here before. There's people in Shanghai at the moment on drips in hospital corridors in Shanghai.
Yeah.
What's going on in China?
It's been another wet market,
Yeah.
Or more likely a leak from a laboratory.
Another mad scientist in a lab.
Exactly.
Have they been scoffing the bats in the...
That's right.
Can
I just say as well, this headline, this story, infected patients take up to 5,000 beds a day. Even if you've got the flu, you wouldn't be given a hospital bed, would you?
No.
Wouldn't you be told, get some antibiotics and go home?
Mike, what happens if you're working from home? Because if you've got huge numbers of... I see even the Met Police at last had the sense, the commissioner said, if you don't come into the office...
That's right.
People working in child protection wanting to work from home...
Why is it taking him so long to say it?
Well, exactly.
God, there's no pleasing you, is there?
I'm sorry, there isn't.
No, I agree. Look, the fact is, God loves a sinner who repents.
Right.
But what happens if you're working from home and you get flu? Do you phone yourself in sick or...
You just stay in bed, which is many
probably what you're doing
anyway.
Exactly.
But you see, we had Keir Starmer talking this week, didn't we, on Monday, his revolutionary plan to save the NHS,
really?
which was not at all revolutionary, and said that he's not going to make any apologies for a public-private collaboration. We already have a public-private collaboration.
Exactly.
Saying he's not going to put ideology before the needs of the people. Well, he said he'd put ideology before his own family when he said, if I had a person who I loved who was on death's door, I still wouldn't use private healthcare.
No.
It's like he's just in this vortex.
He basically extended a load of ideas already initiated by the last Tory government, and
including these diagnostic centres. But he's going to make them work at weekends. Good luck, because you can't get a GP to work 5 days.
Of course you can't. He seems to think that if I don't close anything down, it's a big success, because most things he either changes. I mean, the education bill going through the Commons today, I'm absolutely horrified by it.
It's
going to splinter the best educational system in the Western world world through sheer malice of trying to bring all standards down instead of encouraging people to go up.
Just so people know, Mike, what it is, this is what academy.
Yes.
80% of secondary schools in our academies, they can set their own pay for teachers, their own curriculum, their own uniforms. That's all going to stop. It's all going to come.
It's been very successful. It's been very successful.
And don't forget, what they can also do is to hire unqualified teachers. Now, I'm sorry, that's wrong.
Teaching assistants.
That's not what's wrong with the. That is not what's wrong with the education system. There is a small.
No, but the point is, when you've got the heads of academies, and academies on £200,000 a year,
is that right? This was a Blairite reform.
Andrew Adonis.
And a Blairite reform. And those academies have driven up standards in England, and they've been falling at the same standards in Scotland and Wales, where they don't have
in some cases,
they are good.
In some cases, the academies have done well. In some cases, they've actually gone bankrupt.
Well, then sort out those individual cases that haven't done well. Don't bring everybody down to that level.
Overall, Stephen, you've got to admit that our standing in the international league tables has gone to shooting up.
In England.
Wales and Scotland going down, right? But we are doing very well compared to the rest of the Western world.
Not in mass. But look, just get back to the subject, what we were actually talking about a minute ago. We're actually talking about patients, using up beds in A&E. I think Wes Streeting is the person I listened to, and he made a statement when he first got appointed. He said, the NHS is a service, not a shrine. And I think the NHS, when it was in July 1948, it included, don't forget, it included eye surgery and dentistry, all that. When the Gillibo report came out in 1952, it said it's unsustainable because demand is elastic, supply is inelastic. So whatever happens, we have to examine the fundamentals of the NHS.
How can you hold him up in any esteem whatsoever, Wes Streeting?
I do.
He's come in to... This lot have come in after 14 years in opposition. He's been Shadow Health Secretary for 3 years, and he set up a 3-year review
of social care.
3 years it's going to take. And, Mike, one of the reasons we can't get people into hospital beds is because they're full up with old people who should be in care. 3 years. And we had a review. We had the Dilnot report. The Dilnot report came out. Endless of them.
Do you remember
why are we having another one?
Well, because if you remember what happened last time, let's talk about toxicity. When the Dilnot report came, it was down to be the dementia tax, the death tax. The papers went absolutely doolally.
We've got an NHS listening exercise. The man hasn't got a clue.
No, he hasn't. And, Andrew, you've forgotten the fact that he's also said, I think we'll have a listening exercise.
That's right. I'm sorry, Andrew.
Before I suggest any reforms...
He's saying what no Labour Secretary of State has ever said before.
He's clueless.
Which is what?
This business about the NHS being a service, not a shrine.
Well,
in the past,
that's just words.
People say that the British are not a religious people, so they invented the NHS in order to have something to worship.
The social care review will report in 2028, man. It's 2025.
The next election. The next election will be here by then.
Stephen, it's hopeless. They've got a majority of 165. Use it, get on and do something.
And it is exactly what they are doing.
Another review.
No.
They set up 60 since they got into power.
I'm sorry, he's there morning, noon and night, actually at the front line.
Stephen, did you not see the report recently? I think it was in your paper, Andrew, about the massive rise in remuneration for these middle managers. They're getting huge amounts of money and nobody knows what they do.
We do. They're pen-pushing bureaucrats.
Pen-pushing bureaucrats get paid well in the NHS. How about that?
Well, I mean, I used to say this, but if you actually define what a pen-pushing bureaucrat is, very often it's the people, the receptionists, the non-medical staff. There are certain people...
administrators.
There are some administrators. There's always fat in every big...
And how much are we spending on diversity training
hang on
in the NHS? The most diverse employer in Europe.
What do you say? The NHS is the third biggest employer in the world after the Indian Railways and the Chinese Communist Army.
That's right.
There's got to be some slack.
And more people doing paperwork than doing medical.
And you know why?
That's
Because Andrew Lansley introduced so-called market forces into the NHS, which every single hospital has to compete against each other. Instead of having
health secretary.
We don't have a national health service. We have a notional health service at the
Well, the implication of this basically is we're going to have a massive two-tier health service. You're going to have everyone that can afford to pay private will do so because they just know they're not going to get into hospital, and you're going to have people who can't afford it are going to be, well, frankly, dying.
And so you're describing America today. That is America
and shouldn't
today.
the people who go private get a rebate on their taxes? Shouldn't you get a tax break? Because you're saying, I will look after myself, I'm not asking the government to.
We used to have them. They're long gone.
Exactly. And there was a figure today that we're spending £100 million a year on inquiries and reviews. Taxpayers' money.
And how much would the social care review cost?
People wouldn't mind paying tax if we felt it was going on things other than pointless.
Why are we having a review on the Battle of Orgreave? 40 years ago, right? Arthur Scargill.
On that?
Yes. It was not only are we having a review, it was in the Labour manifesto. The review of the Battle of Orgreave.
Right, Mike, Stephen.
They're actually reviewing some of the sentences that were passed on NUM members. It's not a review of the Battle of Orgreave, it's a review of the sentences that were passed.
What's the point? Exactly. They're all dead anyway. It's mad.
Right, that's very bad for my blood pressure the whole of the last 10 minutes. Don't be offended, fellas. Right, though, here's your headlines with Sam.
Very good morning to you, 10:33 exactly. Elon Musk has been accused of making ridiculous claims about grooming gangs in the UK, with Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips telling him to crack on with getting to Mars. It comes as the scandal in Rotherham is back in the spotlight, with details revealing children as young as 11 were brutally abused by organised gangs. Downing Street says the Prime Minister is working to protect children and to halve violence against women. But Reform UK's Nigel Farage has threatened an unofficial inquiry if the government doesn't act soon. Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer has accused Conservative MPs of putting retweets over protecting children by pushing for a new investigation into child grooming. Kemi Badenoch, a Tory leader, is backing a plan to launch another inquiry, even though a major investigation already wrapped up in 2022 and made key recommendations at the time. The Prime Minister says this could delay crucial child safety laws and called the move short-sighted in an interview with The Mirror. Labour ministers, though, argue it is time to act on existing recommendations, like mandatory reporting of abuse, rather than starting another review. In other news, police are hunting for a killer after a 14-year-old boy was stabbed to death in south-east London in what's being called a horrendous crime. The teenager was attacked on a bus in Woolwich on Tuesday afternoon and sadly died shortly after medics arrived on the scene. No arrests have been made at this stage, but cordons and road closures remain in place. And the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, has called the stabbing heartbreaking and said it has no place in the city. The Metropolitan Police is under investigation over its handling of allegations against the former Harrods boss, Mohammed Al-Fayed. Over 100 alleged victims, some as young as 13, have come forward accusing him of decades of sexual abuse. The Met Force is also looking into claims of corruption after reports that officers took bribes to shield Al-Fayed from accusations and from immediate staff. The police watchdog is overseeing the investigation and will aim to uncover whether officers missed crucial opportunities to act. And let's bring you the latest developments from California, where a state of emergency has been declared. That's as massive wildfires are sweeping through LA, forcing thousands to flee the flames. Firefighters are battling fierce winds that are turning homes into what can be best described as raging infernos. Over 30,000 residents have so far been evacuated and more than 13,000 buildings are now in danger. The latest pictures show neighbourhoods engulfed in flames as people abandon their cars and run for safety. Millions of Californians are now on high alert. The White House, though, says federal resources will be deployed to help contain the blaze. Those are the latest headlines. A full roundup at 11 o'clock. And next, we'll take a quick look at the markets.
Direct your smartphone. Sign up to news alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Crash Law 24 sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Well, here's how the markets are standing this morning. The pound will buy you $1.2449 and €1.2063. The price of gold, £2,132 and 45 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 8,252 points.
Crash Law 24 sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
We're going to go over to Woolwich soon, where police are still searching for this killer of a 14-year-old schoolboy who was stabbed to death on his way back from school on the bus yesterday. Don't go anywhere. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's another cold start to the day, widely below freezing, but a sunshine and wintry showers sort of day expected for many. However, we are keeping our eye on a system that's moving up from the southwest, bringing some rain, sleet and snow. More on that in a moment. For the time being, we've got further sleet and snow showers moving into the north of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Fewer compared with the last couple of days, but still some significant snow building up across northern Scotland, particularly over hills, and it's going to stay cold. It's going to feel especially cold in the northerly wind across northern parts of the UK, but plenty of sunshine elsewhere. However, through the afternoon and into the evening, we are watching out for this area of rain, sleet and snow likely to affect southern counties of England. Now, worst case scenario is this will bring a decent covering across southern counties of England, leading to a lot of disruption. But more likely is it will be a patchy, slight covering of snow for most, with any more significant snow confined to the likes of Dartmoor or Salisbury Plain. The more significant snow continues across the north of Scotland, particularly around coastal areas, as well as parts of Northern Ireland into North Wales and northwest England. And as this system pulls away by the end of the night, well, it's good to turn frosty and indeed icy widely across the UK, with once again temperatures down to -3 to -5 Celsius. Most places seeing those kinds of temperatures, but in some spots, particularly where we've got snow cover further north, minus double figures are possible. That means another freezing start to the day on Thursday. Plenty of sunshine and a crisp winter's day for the vast majority is expected. So it's good to stay dry with sunny skies in many southern, central and eastern parts of the country. But again, northern Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, perhaps Wales seeing further sleet, snow and hail showers. It stays cold until the end of the week before it turns much milder into the weekend.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Murray, the A939 is closed each way between Cockbridge and Tomintoul because of snow. On the M6 in Lancashire, there are 2 lanes closed northbound for emergency repairs between junctions 28 and 29 from Leyland to the M65, causing delays. On Merseyside, the A552 is closed in both directions along Borough Road off the A41, Chester Street junction at Birkenhead, causing delays. Buses replaced trains between Llandudno Junction and Blaenau Festiniog for emergency repairs thanks to a fallen tree on the line. On the M6 in the West Midlands, there are 2 lanes closed northbound where a lorry is broken down between junctions 5 and 6 towards Spaghetti Junction, Birmingham, with delays almost back to junction 4. In Merthyr Tydfil, the A470 is closed each way north of the A465, heads to the Valleys Road after an accident, and the A465 is also closed eastbound there. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Very good morning, 10:40. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News. So, awful story. Yesterday, a 14-year-old boy was stabbed to death on a bus in Woolwich in south-east London. The Met Police says that an investigation has been launched. The killer is still on the loose. GB News reporter Adam Cherry is there at the scene this morning. Adam, what more do we know?
Well, at the moment, as you say, the killer is still on the loose. They don't have a suspect. They're making inquiries now. You can see those watching on television will see the road behind me where the attack happened, just a few hundred metres to my left. Woolwich Church Street has been closed since the attack at about 2:28 p.m. yesterday. More police were here earlier. It's now a slightly reduced presence, but the chief Superintendent for the Metropolitan Police, Louise Sargent, released this statement yesterday after the 14-year-old unfortunately died of his injuries at the scene. She said, paramedics treated a 14-year-old boy at the scene who received stab wounds. Our thoughts are at this time with the victim's friends and family. It is a horrendous crime. I can't imagine what they must be going through right now, and we are working at pace to identify and arrest those involved. It's also worth pointing out that just 24 hours before this attack, another stabbing took place in this area, an 18-year-old boy or man just outside a school. It's not thought that these two crimes are connected at this stage, but it speaks to this endemic violence in the capital. 10 teenagers were killed in 2024, more in 2023. It's a horrendous problem here, and the community is grieving and, of course, angry as well that not more is being done.
OK, thank you, Adam. Adam Cherry there. We're joined now by the Chair of Communities Against Violence, Ken Hines. Morning, Ken. I can't believe we're having this conversation again. We talk to you quite regularly, don't we, about these stabbing incidents. I think what I was quite surprised by then is that they don't seem to have a suspect. You presume in these cases of stabbing with kids like this that maybe it's a little gang-related, maybe they know each other, maybe it's an altercation that spilled out from school.
Bear in mind, it took place on a crowded bus.
Yeah, true. What's your assessment when you hear this story this morning?
Well, quite clearly, my deepest condolence goes out to the family and the people affected by it, including those who would have witnessed it on the bus. But when I see something like this, it doesn't surprise me. It shows that the person who perpetrated this just didn't give a damn about anything other than creating this mayhem. Now, what could be in somebody's head to think that they've got that kind of privilege to go and do that as they please, not fearing any consequence? So I've been here too many times, and we can always look about giving greater sanction and greater prison sentence, but it would not detract from what the people would have witnessed that stayed in their head for life.
Ken, 10, 15 years ago, if I can interrupt you, we would have been shocked to the core to hear a little lad in his school uniform was stabbed to death on his way home from school on a crowded bus. I'm afraid to say today, we're not shocked. What's happened? Right. What's gone wrong?
It's become... we're climatised to it. But what it is that we've got to go back to basic. What kind of young people are we growing in our community that can go out and be part of this, whether he's done it on his own or whether he's done it with in association with others? I would always, I'm part of this group called a Band of Brothers, and what we got is what we call a rites of passage. We've got to look at empowering young people to say that you are going to have these challenges in life, and you must be able to self-reflect to see where that hurt is coming from and to make better decisions to deal with your situation. I see myself no different to that perpetrator when I was at that age. So I understand that, but I've evolved to come to where I am today. And I would say quite clearly, we need to support these young people to help change their mindset. I understand when this red mist comes, that you must do that work on yourself, is stepping back and not going out there and committing these horrendous crimes.
We've run out of time, Ken, but you're always interested and insightful in this area. Thank you so much. That was the Chair of Communities Against Violence, Ken Hines, joining us there.
An irony, of course, because the Police and Crime Commissioner for London is the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, who...
I think you'll find Sir
Sadiq Khan, knighted in the New Year's Honours list, one of the honours which makes me think the whole honours system is being brought into disrepute. What on earth does he deserve one for?
We could have a debate on that, but we can't, because we're going to sit back and think about some winter sun, the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
If you're looking to escape the cold weather in the UK and find some winter sun, well, you're in luck. Fine for many parts of southern Europe. And it's looking like there'll be some warm sunshine for the Canaries as well as Madeira. But for Portugal and Spain, particularly towards the north, there'll be some showery rain, more especially parts of the south of France seeing some wet weather. Snow for the Alps there, showers for Italy, and indeed there will be some showers across parts of Greece during the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Have you noticed that more and more stores are closing? Well, last year, apparently 13,000 stores closed for the last time on the high street.
Well, experts warn the worst is still to come for our small businesses.
Well, let's talk to retail expert Jeremy Baker. Good morning to you, Jeremy. How bad is it and what can be done?
Well, nothing can be done about it. Retail is like that. It's boom and bust operation. So last year, let's say you had a shop and it was booming. This year, the consumer can just change their mind. They don't need to come back to your shop ever again.
Well, it is sad, Jeremy, because our high streets are the beating heart of our communities, aren't they? And for many people, I know I can relate to my high street, it is such a depressing sight, walking down there and seeing them all boarded up and closed down.
But how often do you walk down that boarded up high street? I think people move on to something else. The online world is very big. Yeah. And lots of other things are very exciting. And so people, you know, the shop, I like to go to my GP in a shopping centre and get my tests done there rather than tramp off all the way to the GP, for example. And children could go to little schools in the high street. I've seen that happen already. So lots of things could happen to the high street. It could be much more a social centre. Much more kind of like pubs, coffee shops, all that. Charities. I don't see anything wrong with charities taking over, but the idea of this shop-centred high street finished, that's gone. Never coming back. Goodbye. It's not sad, it's just life.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very good morning, Britain's Newsroom. We're just digesting our little snacks. We'll tell the nation what we're eating.
Leftover dates from Christmas.
Dates with a cup of coffee is very nice.
Exactly. Now, there is a bill going forward to Commons today. Labour would want you to say it's all about protecting vulnerable children, but I'll tell you what it's about. It's about unpicking one of the great successes of education policy in this country, academies, where the teachers, the schools can set their own salaries, they can set their own curriculum, their own uniforms. Labour want to take a sledgehammer to that and smash it all up to make all schools the same.
That's right. Well, earlier today, Bridget Phillips spoke to GB News about her plan for schools.
Focus in all of this is children, their life chances and high and rising standards in our schools. And I think what parents and your viewers will expect is that in every school in the country that they can demand a brilliant education.
We're joined now from the Campaign for Real Education by Chris McGovern. Morning, Chris. Is there, as Bridget Phillipson says there, is there detail in here which is going to raise all the standards and so that parents can expect an excellent education?
Well, these are the terms of surrender to the educational establishment, in fact. There's 59 pages in the bill and 160 pages of explanation, so it's a very big bill, lots of stuff in there. I think, as Andrew said, that the big problem, as far as we're concerned, is that academies are going to lose their freedom. That they are effectively going to have to teach the national curriculum.
Yeah.
I think the Education Secretary doesn't understand that the national curriculum, the problem has always been it can be captured. And even from her point, even from Labour's point of view, it's going to be captured now by those on the left. But look, we could have a right-wing government in the future. They will capture it. There's always been a danger. So the advantage of academies is that they can step outside the national curriculum and have that freedom. And that's helped to raise standards.
But if I can say as well, what's happening today, Chris, this is what the trade union, teaching unions have been demanding for months and years. And it's yet again the Labour government caving into their union paymasters.
It is. And one of the other sad things is that academies can set their own pay levels.
Yeah.
What's going to happen in the future under this bill is that there'll be a standard pay level for all across the country. So it's everything standardised, one curriculum, one pay bill. There's no diversity in this bill. And you're right to point out that to some extent, at least under the previous government, there's been some progress. It's not been as good as the Tories would have us think, but it's certainly been progress. And oddly enough, Andrew, the Academies programme was originally started up by Tony Blair. So Labour are really stepping back into a really Marxist view of education. We're going to control everything, and academies are going to lose their freedom.
Are you just seeing a load of Marxists dressed up in Labour outfits? Because I am, particularly in Bridget Phillipson, I think, in terms of the education. One size fits all. Let's have a hegemonic way of thinking. And it's interesting you use the word diversity. She said she's going to make the curriculum more diverse in terms of gender politics and identity politics. She's not shying away from her ambition to indoctrinate children to think along those ways. But the beauty of academies, as you said, is that head teachers could decide to take what they wanted. But I just wanted you to clarify, when you say not sticking to the national curriculum, of course, still teaching the basics to get kids through GCSEs, but it's worked.
Yeah, I mean, you have to understand that teaching unions and the teaching profession is very left-wing. I recall some years ago now, the Labour Party conference in Brighton, a teacher delegate spoke at the conference, and to loud applause, he said, the education system in this country is failing as long as one pupil ever leaves a school and votes Tory. Now, I don't count myself as Tory or Labour. I'm not political in that sense, party political. And plenty to criticise about Tory education policy. But undoubtedly, within the teaching profession, it is very skewed to the left. The only hope we have, though, is that children themselves do tend to react against this sort of imposing this thought control. I hope that young people actually, in the longer term at least, will rebel against this, and they will demand the right to speak freely and to think freely. And at the end of the day, this Labour government's probably got 4.5 years. It will come to an end, and then they will find they have perhaps a right-wing government which will impose its own view. All too extreme. The advantage of the academy system, which we support, is that there's some freedom for school. But let's be honest, most academies do teach the national curriculum anyway.
Yeah, OK, fantastic. Thank you, Chris McGovern there. What interesting take. That's a man who understands kids, isn't it, and how their minds work. Right, still to come, farmers in East Yorkshire, in the fantastically named area of Beverley, are hosting a tractor protest against inheritance tax. We are going to be with them.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's another cold start to the day, widely below freezing, but a sunshine and wintry shower sort of day expected for many. However, we are keeping our eye on a system that's moving up from the southwest, bringing some rain, sleet and snow. More on that in a moment. For the time being, we've got further sleet and snow showers moving into the north of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Fewer compared with the last couple of days, but still some significant snow building up across northern Scotland, particularly over hills, and it's going to stay cold. It's going to feel especially cold in the northerly wind across northern parts of the UK, but plenty of sunshine elsewhere. However, through the afternoon and into the evening, we are watching out for this area of rain, sleet and snow likely to affect southern counties of England. Now, worst case scenario is this will bring a decent covering across southern counties of England, leading to a lot of disruption. But more likely is it will be a patchy, slight covering of snow for most, with any more significant snow confined to the likes of Dartmoor or Salisbury Plain. The more significant snow continues across the north of Scotland, particularly around coastal areas, as well as parts of Northern Ireland into North Wales and northwest England. And as this system pulls away by the end of the night, well, it's going to turn frosty and indeed icy widely across the UK, with once again temperatures down to -3 to -5 Celsius. Most places seeing those kinds of temperatures, but in some spots, particularly where we've got snow cover further north, minus double figures are possible. That means another freezing start to the day on Thursday. Plenty of sunshine and a crisp winter's day for the vast majority is expected. So it's good to stay dry with sunny skies in many southern, central and eastern parts of the country. But again, northern Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, perhaps Wales seeing further sleet, snow and hail showers. It stays cold until the end of the week before it turns much milder into the weekend.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine how £50,000 in cash from us could make your new year go with a bang. From treats to holidays to fun times with the family, a totally tax-free £50,000 in cash could make you feel alive in 2025. And just one entry into the Great British Giveaway really could make £50,000 cash all yours. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Before she even met Prince Harry, her passion was sharing recipe tips, lifestyle, wellness techniques, because she had a blog, quite a successful blog actually, called The Tig. Of course, that had to be shut down when she became a working member of the royal family. We all know the turmoil that happened with Megxit. Now that her and Harry have come out the other side of that and have signed multi-million-pound deals with Netflix and others, this is the proof in the pudding, pardon the pun, and it is basically, I suspect, the TIG 2.0, because we've got everybody, she has managed to get everybody talking about this. You know, the royal family has been dragged through turmoil over the last few years because partly due to Harry and Meghan's decision, partly due to the royal family's decision, but this is kind of what's come out the other side.
Which is a load of nonsense. I mean, the fact, because it's all totally fake, isn't it? I mean, it's not her house, it's not her kitchen. She clearly doesn't spend her days picking strawberries and collecting honey from bees. I mean, the whole thing's just a fabrication.
Well, it's Netflix fantasy, isn't it? So I think any lifestyle programme such as this tends to not be filmed in the host's house. It's reportedly a $5 million rented house. The cooker itself is worth about $15,000. Even the pans are about $80 as well that she is using. So yes, Stephen, you're right. It is kind of fake and fantasy, but then, of course, that's how these lifestyle programmes are made. It's whether the question will be when you watch the series, if you decide to watch the series, is Meghan trying to portray herself as this authentic self, or is she going to make it clear that, you know, this is just like the best bits of her life? But she's got lots of celebrity friends involved in it, including her makeup artists and others as well. Prince Harry makes an appearance.
Of course he does.
Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
11 a.m. on Wednesday, 8th of January, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
So the war of words over this grooming scandal is rumbling on. The safeguarding minister, Jess Phillips, told the tech billionaire Elon Musk to crack on with getting to Mars after he branded her a rape genocide apologist. Here's what she said.
Being in the spotlight like this and the intimation of what Elon Musk is, the disinformation, as I believe the Prime Minister referred to it as, has put out about me, it's endangering.
And the Tory leader, Kemi Badenoch, she's pushing for a new national inquiry. The Prime Minister's told his MPs they'll have to vote against that idea.
Now, Jess Phillips has told Elon Musk to get to Mars, but a survivor from Oldham has told Jess Phillips to visit the town in Greater Manchester. That survivor saying that she has yet to speak to them since she rejected that call for a national inquiry.
Farmers in East Yorkshire are going to carry out a tractor protest soon. This morning, they're fighting back against the government's inheritance tax changes. This row is not going away.
Yes, we're here at Beverley Westwood, where farmers from across East Yorkshire will be gathering in their tractors for a rally around the town ahead of East Yorkshire Council meeting, where a motion is going to be put forward to repeal the family farm tax. We'll have more very soon.
An extraordinary scenes in Los Angeles, California. Tens of thousands of people, including some Hollywood actors, have been ordered to evacuate from their Los Angeles homes as firefighters battle a deadly forest fire blaze.
Flu cases Are apparently soaring, and several NHS trusts in England are declaring critical incidents with waits of up to 2 days in some A&E departments. But should everybody going to A&E be there, or should they be with their GP?
And there's been an outbreak of human metapneumovirus in China. Britons are warned to be alert to symptoms of this supposedly dangerous flu-like virus, with children most at risk. Does this mean we're going to see the return, oh no, of face masks?
Nope. Let us know your thoughts on all the talking points this morning, won't you? Though first, the very latest news with Sam Francis.
Bev, Andrew, thank you very much. Good morning to you. We're just coming up to 3 minutes past 11. The top story, Elon Musk has been accused of making ridiculous claims about grooming gangs in the UK, with Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips telling him to crack on with getting to Mars. It comes as the scandal in Rotherham is back in the spotlight, with details revealing that children as young as 11 were brutally abused by organised gangs. Downing Street says the Prime Minister is working to protect children and to halve violence against women. Reform UK's Nigel Farage has threatened an unofficial inquiry if the government doesn't act soon. Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer has also accused Conservative MPs of putting retweets over protecting children by pushing for a new investigation into child grooming. Kemi Badenoch, the Tory leader, is backing a plan to launch another inquiry, even though a major investigation wrapped up in 2022 and made key recommendations at the time. The Prime Minister says any new inquiry could delay crucial child safety laws and called the move short-sighted in an interview with The Mirror. Well, the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, spoke to us earlier this morning, and she said it is time to act on those existing recommendations.
We had a national inquiry. The Conservatives launched that. It took 7 years, over £100 million, came out with many recommendations. What we need is action. That's what the chair of that investigation has called for. That's what we are determined to deliver, and that's why the measures that we're setting out today are all about keeping children safe. This is nothing short of political opportunism from the Conservatives. If they had their way, if what they've set out today were to happen, then all of the measures in this legislation to keep children safe would be stopped, stone dead, and will be blocked. I think that is utterly disgusting.
In other news, police are hunting for a killer after a 14-year-old boy was stabbed to death in south-east London in what police are calling a horrendous crime. The teenager was attacked on a bus in Woolwich on Tuesday afternoon and died shortly after medics arrived on scene. No arrests have been made so far, but cordons and road closures remain in place as inquiries continue. The Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, has called the stabbing heartbreaking and said it has no place in the city. It comes just a day after another unrelated stabbing left an 18-year-old man fighting for his life in the same area. The latest developments now in America, where a state of emergency has been declared in California as a massive wildfire sweeps through Los Angeles, forcing thousands to flee the flames there. Firefighters are still battling fierce winds that are turning homes into raging infernos. Over 30,000 residents have been evacuated, with more than 13,000 buildings now in danger. Well, the latest pictures show neighbourhoods engulfed in flames, and people are abandoning their cars and seen running for safety. With millions of Californians now on high alert, the White House says federal resources have been deployed to help contain the blaze. Staying in the United States, President-elect Donald Trump has suggested the US could use military or economic force to acquire Greenland and the Panama Canal. During a wide-ranging press conference last night, Trump also proposed renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name.
Those comments came as his son, Donald Trump Jr., visited Greenland, where local leaders firmly stated the island is not for sale. Trump's remarks have now left many questioning his serious intent to expand US territory, with Denmark and Panama strongly rejecting his claims. Back here, the NHS is urging patients to attend A&E alone as rising flu cases push emergency departments to breaking point. York and Scarborough hospitals are among those asking for public support, while critical incidents have been declared across several trusts, including in Liverpool, Cornwall and Birmingham. One patient reportedly waited 50 hours for a warm bed, with frontline staff describing the system as overwhelmed. Flu cases in hospitals have now surged to 5,000 a day, with the NHS Medical Director, Sir Stephen Powis, warning that the pressure is relentless. And that comes as Britain is bracing for a deep freeze as temperatures are set to plunge as low as minus 15 degrees Celsius this week, the coldest of the winter so far, and potentially the coldest January in 15 years. The Met Office has issued fresh snow and ice warnings for northern Scotland, Northern Ireland and sub-zero conditions expected nationwide. The UK Health Security Agency is also warning of rising health risks, extending its cold weather alert for England through until Sunday. Meanwhile, flood alerts do remain in place, but conditions are drier after days of heavy rain. That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with you for another update in half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Andrew and Bev.
Latest GB News direct to your smartphone. Sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good morning, 11:08. This is Britain's Newsroom, live across the world with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner. We're looking at what you've been saying at home this morning. Jess Phillips tells Musk to crack on and go to Mars, says Les. Morning, Les. A message to Phillips, crack on and go to Oldham. It's time for this dreadful woman to speak to the victims. Now, she would say, of course, that she's spent a lot of time fighting for victims of sexual abuse, and particularly, women who've been also the victims of domestic abuse.
But shouldn't she talk to the victims in Oldham who she's rejected their calls for an inquiry, a proper inquiry, rather than just talking to the council leaders?
Yeah.
Frankly.
Yeah, you're right. Here we go. Jackie said, I think it's absolutely disgraceful that Jess Phillips is more concerned with her own safety rather than the safety of our children. Who does she think she is? What makes her so special? That's kind of the point I was...
Yeah, and on that, can I say, she's been provided by the state, quite right, with round-the-clock protection. Round the clock.
Because of this, or she gets that anyway?
No, she gets it because of this. Because of the... Yeah, so... And the taxpayer pays for that. And it isn't cheap.
No,
I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, but I'm just saying she's getting round-the-clock security.
I find it quite a leap that if somebody out there wanted to harm Jess Phillips, they would be inspired by a tweet to do so.
By Elon Musk.
By Elon Musk.
Well, there are a lot of weirdos out there and sickos.
Yeah, but that's kind of my point. There are weirdos, and weirdos will be weirdos whether somebody tweets something about them or not. Like, I think really sorry, it comes with the territory.
But I suppose this would have been assessed by people who know about these things, the police, and they will be saying she needs the protection.
I got the giggles there because one of our very clever viewers has said about Jess Phillips telling Elon Musk to go to Mars. If I was Musk, I would tell her to get her head out of the name of another Uranus, another planet.
That is quite funny.
That's very good. Very good. Someone's had the coffee this morning. Andy said, Musk disinformation is endangering Jess Phillips. So she says, those girls still being raped is what? Not being endangered. That's my point. I think it would have been better in that interview to just not talk about herself and to say, look, I am in a difficult job and I take that, but my life is not as difficult as the girls who are continuing to be raped and abused in northern towns all across the country, and possibly southern towns as well.
And remember, in the Mail today, we reported this in GB News before, the ringleader of the gang in Rochdale, who was banged up for 6 years for raping and trafficking girls, banged up for 6 years, the court was told he would be deported in 2014 back to Pakistan. Guess what? He's still in Rochdale. Behaves like Jack the Lad, didn't get deported, which means he could come into contact at any time with his victims. That is disgraceful. And it's a sign yet again that the victims are not being listened to. And why is wasn't that man on the first plane back to Pakistan? It'll be his human rights.
These women were the victims of, it's a phrase we don't really use anymore, political correctness.
Yeah.
The word woke has sort of
Yeah.
taken over, hasn't it, from political correctness. It's easy to forget at the time it was considered to be politically incorrect to point a finger at certain cultures or to ask a question. Is there a problem within that specific community? Nobody dares say that. Well, I'm glad we're talking about that now. It's important because this scandal is continuing to dominate coverage. Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips said yesterday that she has yet to speak to any one victim from Oldham. That's amazing. Well, we're going to talk now to GBNews' national reporter, Charlie Peters, who is in Rotherham. Charlie, good morning. It's been a busy few days for you, I know, and you've been travelling around northern towns. You are talking to victims. Were you surprised to hear that Jess Phillips hasn't spoken to any of them from Oldham?
Good morning, Bev and Andrew, and yes, welcome to Rotherham, the town that really sparked the national interest in this nationwide atrocity, because in 2014, Alexis Jay released a report that revealed the extent of the abuse in this town. Everyone knows about Rotherham, Rochdale and Telford, but few people know about the 50 different towns and cities that GB News has investigated and compiled assessments from that we believe on-street grooming has been occurring for the last few decades. We do believe this is an ongoing scandal, and that's why we've seen so many calls recently for a national public inquiry into this sort of child abuse. But yes, we're talking also about those comments made by the Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips last night. She confirmed that she hadn't yet spoken to survivors from Oldham. She said that she was arranging that, trying to get that sorted. But one thing that hasn't been put to the safeguarding ministers in those interviews that she's done, she's yet to speak to GB News about this. She has yet to explain why it took almost 4 months for her to for her to respond to Oldham Council. Now, they put forward a request for this government-led inquiry written by the executive of the council on behalf of the survivors in July. She got back to them late October. She deeply apologised to the council for not responding sooner, but still hasn't explained why it took so long. Now, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has said that Jess Phillips is a fearless champion of women and girls, but many saying she needs to explain that delay and that lack of apology to the survivors.
OK, thank you, Charlie. Look, actually, few MPs have done more over the years for women who are being abused than Jess Phillips. I take that as a given, actually. I think she's done a huge amount. But this is now on the agenda, and I think we're only now realising how much these girls have been neglected.
And before she took the decision to say no to the inquiry, shouldn't she have spoken to some of the victims first to see why they feel they need one? Might that have not helped inform her decision?
Well, let's hope she does now. Let's give her the benefit of the doubt and hope she does now. So a government spokesperson from the Home Office has issued this statement: no child should ever suffer sexual abuse or exploitation. And it is paramount that we do more to protect vulnerable children, which is why we are working at pace across government to drive forward real action to implement the recommendations of the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse.
Now, there's a virus gaining ground in China. It's known as HMPV. Could be here in Britain soon.
I'm starting to twitch, Andrew Pierce.
Yeah, don't get us started. Don't get us started on the whole COVID mask thing. We're being warned of flu-like symptoms here in Britain, with children most at risk. Well, let's talk to somebody who knows all about this and put this all in perspective. GB News science and health editor Lucy Johnson. Lucy, I've seen images of, morning to you, of people in China on drips in Shanghai and hospitals. Are we going through this whole COVID psychodrama again? Please say not.
Morning to you. This virus, HMPV, is not new. It actually has probably been around for about 65 years. It was first identified by Dutch scientists in 2001, and it has been circulating in this country and does so every year. The difference now is that we do get very twitchy because we've got more diagnostic tools and more equipment to identify viruses. So this one doesn't have pandemic potential, although reading some of the headlines, you might think that we are under threat. But in fact, there are about 200 to 300 seasonal pathogens that circulate, different ones more prevalent in different years. And this year, this one is among them. It's not particularly high, although people who are older, and people who are very much younger, so young babies and infants and older people, are at risk, as they would be with any virus. So it isn't the case that we're under some awful threat. The news from China, or the images from China, we don't know enough about that yet. It could be that there's a strain of this particular virus that is more severe, but it's not a virus that is like COVID-19 in that it is not new. So it won't, scientists do not think it will cause a pandemic like COVID-19 did, because we already have some immunity in the population. It may have changed a little bit, but we don't know enough about what's going on in China to really say that we should be frightened.
I heard another news presenter this morning, Lucy, use the phrase, we're in a quad-demic. And she used it with a straight face, which I thought was quite... Well, what they mean is there are 4 main illnesses at the moment which are making people ill in hospital. We're in a quad-demic. I think, crikey, how can you say that with a straight face? It is just a normal winter season, isn't it? With perhaps immune systems not being their strongest, partly because, particularly with children, they didn't go anywhere for 2 years, so they haven't got that robust, necessarily, immune system that they had, that another generation might otherwise have had.
Well, I don't know whether we have. I mean, definitely not. The immune system works on the go, and it does need to be challenged. So that could be an issue. But we don't know. There's no evidence that the burden of viruses is any bigger than it ever is. It has been in the past. I remember writing in 2014 and 2015, I think there was something like 43,000 extra winter deaths because the flu, which is, it's many viruses, it's not just one, it changes every year. That was particularly severe that winter. I think the vaccine didn't particularly match the circulating virus, and there were lots of deaths. So this is nothing new. What frustrates many doctors is that, just as you will sell more ice creams in summer, we have more viruses in winter. Yeah. People are together more. The weather's colder. Lots of conditions mean that seasonal viruses, viruses do peak up in winter. And why are we not planning for this? Why are they always overwhelmed? We spend the same amount of our taxes on our healthcare as other nations. I'm thinking in Holland, Switzerland, but yet we seem to get in these crises every year. And I noticed this morning there's 12 critical incidents declared across hospitals, or across 12 different hospitals, where hospitals are saying they can't operate safely. This is not new either. It's happening. It happens regularly. So we need to sort out the health system to prepare for this, because it is predictable.
Yeah. OK, Lucy, thank you so much. That's GB News' Science and Health Editor, Lucy Johnson.
She's
with
great,
an
isn't she?
Excellent dose of common sense.
Yeah, 61 years that's been around.
Can I just tell you, this is why GB News is so brilliant. I mean, there's a whole long list, but just let us have a moment, because if you turn on any other channel this morning, they'll terrify you and tell you that you mustn't go out because you're all going to catch a virus, which has been around for more than 60 years. So you can just all relax. The only thing I would say, though, all we can take from all these conversations we have about health is that you've got to look after your own health.
But that 'twas ever thus.
Get healthy, lose weight, get fit, drink less, don't smoke, because you know what? The NHS isn't necessarily going to be there to pick you up off the floor.
It used to be an apple a day, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it still would be a good place to start, wouldn't it? An apple a day. Right, up next, our very own Statler and Waldorf are going to go through some of the top stories. You can expect highbrow intellectual chat from this pair, and probably a few double entendres as well. Don't go anywhere.
The first sign of the, you know.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
GB News Breakfast. every day from 6 a.m.
Underestimate what you did, because to do it in their backyard as well, I bet they weren't happy about it, were they, Brad?
No, definitely not. Well, it makes it all the more sweeter. So they're usually pretty dominant in a two-man event, but four-man's usually where we can challenge them. And yeah, we managed to do it yesterday and put down 2 solid runs. And yeah.
So yeah, funding was a big issue for us in the last quad, but because of our results recently, we've picked up a lot more funding from UK Sport. So we're well funded now, and but yeah, the bob is in the back of the van behind us. So we're driving it down to St Moritz as we speak. So yeah, that's how it all works in the background in bobsleigh.
Brad, you're the pilot, correct? So you're up front.
Yeah.
Now, what happens? I always wonder, because I remember seeing John Noakes on. Do you remember John Noakes on Blue Peter when he fell out of the bob and he ended up showing the back of his backside on TV because he had a big scar on there? What? So you've got the brake man. You're at the front. So where are you then, Aaron? Are you what number are you?
So I'm number 3. Yeah.
Right. So what do you do there? Is it just a matter of it's the running power is what it's all about to get off to a good start, and then you can sit and enjoy the ride?
Yeah, that's it. So for number 2 and myself, number 3, it's all about getting that bob off the line and then just zipping it up to as high a speed as we can, basically. Getting in, staying low, having good aerodynamics and staying still and let Brad do the work.
Yeah, it's definitely not a comfortable position for them because we're bending them and twisting them into quite an uncomfortable position to get as aerodynamic as possible. And when you've got 6 times G's pushing you through that is not... Yeah, not
definitely
fun.
Stiff back this morning, that's for sure.
Because I'm just thinking where me and Eamon would sit. Is it 2 and 3, or would he go at number 4? What do you fancy?
I would be too frightened to do that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
The first sign of you know.
That was one of your most intellectual contributions to this programme.
Well, that was my, top-level medical analysis of what could happen in Britain in the forthcoming weeks.
Oh.
Either that or there's a short circuit on the electric. Yes, that's right.
Stephen Pound is here as well. Right, we're going to be talking... We're going to be talking... no, sorry, ignore me. Right, we want to talk about this election. I just did a you then. Now,
it'll become a trend.
Thank you. Yeah, it's catching on already, clearly.
Do the Freddie.
This petition for a new election that was online a few weeks ago.
Yes.
Got 3 million signatures.
Yes. Not bad. Yes.
Which is pretty impressive.
Yes.
And therefore
started by the publican.
And it had to be debated in Westminster Hall because it got over 100,000.
And the lady carrying the debate was Carolyn, the Welsh MP. Carolyn Roberts is her name? Yeah, that's right.
OK, so this was yesterday. We got the clip to play. OK, brilliant. So Farage was on this yesterday at this debate, and he absolutely pulled a blinder. Let's watch a little clip.
And in the Prime Minister and the Chancellor of the Exchequer, I mean, we've got 2 people who look like they're going to a family funeral every day. There is an air of miserableism. Even a speech from the Prime Minister, the complete opposite to Tony Blair. This isn't things can only get better, it's things can only get worse. We are literally, yes, of course.
I thank the member for giving way. When you come into a new job and you discover that there's a £22 billion black hole, I think you'd look a bit miserable as well, don't you agree?
The idea of a 22 billion black hole is nonsense. It's 2.7 trillion. The national debt is massive. It exploded over the course of the last... It increased by 2.5 times over the course of the last 14 years, and it's set to go higher still. We are in much deeper difficulty economically, even to talk about a £22 billion black hole.
So that was Dawn Butler MP, who...
So she's a backbencher, so she rose to interject, and so she was trying to say, you'd be depressed if there was a £22 billion black hole. Nigel Farage making the point, actually, the debt is 2.7 trillion.
That's right.
Which is a figure none of us can comprehend. No. And we see today what's happened about the cost of servicing
Absolutely.
that debt.
Headlines all over the place. Another blow to read as borrowing costs hit the highest level in 27 years. So you can stop talking now about what happened when a temporary Prime Minister of this country allegedly smashed the economy, Liz Truss. It's even worse. Because this is worse since 1998. Yeah. The cost of borrowing, the government's cost of borrowing.
What that means, Steve, Mike, and you know what happened in 1998? Tony Blair paid off the national debt in 1998, the money that we still owe the Americans.
Didn't he sell the gold to do that?
No, he didn't. That was the minuscule amount.
Gordon Brown did that.
But the point being,
at a very low rate.
Government gilts at the moment are actually we're having to pay 5.2% interest.
Exactly, which is up from 4.6%, which Liz Truss achieved.
The point this matters is this is a cost to everybody watching this programme because the taxpayer is having to service the national debt of 2.7 trillion, and because of her policies, because of the Chancellor's policies, the cost of that interest is rising all the time.
Of course it is.
The highest level for 28 years.
Hang on a sec. Let's get a couple of things absolutely straight. First of all, this is a slow process. It's not just happened in the last 6 months. Secondly, the FTSE is up. The pound against the dollar is up. No, hang on a sec. These are the...
They're international. They're international figures.
If you take the temperature of a nation, the way to take the temperature of the nation is to see whether the world has confidence in it. Liz Truss fell because the world lost confidence in her. At the moment, we still have confidence in this country on the international
No, they're losing confidence in Rachel Reeves, Stephen. You've got to admit they are. They must be.
Sorry, let's get another thing straight. When we talk about national debt, I mean, every country has a certain element of national debt, without a shadow of a doubt. And at the present time, that figure that's being thrown about the trillions, a lot of that is actually baked in. We know about that. That's there for infrastructure development. But what's really hitting us at the moment is the lack of productivity in this country, the high levels of unemployment in this country, and the huge level of benefits. And that is what is crushing us.
And that won't get better because...
Well, it's got to, Mike, it's got to get better.
Well, it can't because of Rachel Reeves' policies. I got an A-level in economics and I know more about how to run an economy than Rachel Reeves does. And one indication of that is that the gentleman who runs Next, which is our most successful high street store, his name is Lord Wolfson, he said that Next is facing a £73 million a year increase in staffing costs due to higher wages and Labour's increase in employer national insurance, which will put at least 1% on the cost of the clothing that he sells. How can that bring us growth in this country? How can it?
How on earth can Rachel Reeves' policies affect the number of people who are work-shy in this country, who are sitting at home and claiming benefits and not working? How can
By making it more attractive to go to work and less attractive to live off the state. Because Labour want people to live off the state. It's an outrage. It's an outrage.
Can I throw another figure at you? The Housing Federation, the Home Builders Federation. Now, remember, it's all about growth. According to Rachel Reeves, you lot are going to reform the planning system to get people building 1.5 million homes by 2029. The number of planning applications has fallen to build houses has fallen to its lowest level since 2006. Since your lot... got in.
Hang on a second.
These figures are here.
They're here. No, sorry. The existing level of planning applications is so enormous. There was a massive backlog. A number of people who are land
banking... Well, that's down to the Tories, then.
I'm not one of these people who blames everything on the Tories, because you wouldn't let me get away with it. But the reality is that you're talking about new applications. There's no need for new applications. We have a massive backlog of applications. When people like Tim Davie, the Director General of the BBC, is actually fighting to stop anybody building in his area at the present time. You've got the NIMBYs in Kent all over the place at the present.
Well, what's that? Tell us about Tim Davie, because he's got a very nice house, £4 million, isn't it?
Is it £4 million?
Yeah, £4 million house in Oxfordshire, and lo and behold, as a senior member of the establishment, he suddenly won an appeal against a housing estate being built nearby. Funny that, isn't it? But it seems to happen.
Not with working class people.
Getting back to the state of the economy, by the way, and Stephen, talk your way out of this one. Experts last night warned Ms Reeves is on the brink of breaking her own fiscal rules because of the cost of borrowing now and being forced into more tax hikes due to the surge in borrowing costs and slowdown in growth. So we could be facing more tax hikes because of the idiotic policies she has introduced into this country.
Could maybe experts... Look, two things. First of all, anybody who's an expert... I've got a degree in economics from the London School of Economics. I don't claim to be an expert. Well, I've got a piece of paper at home.
Right.
And the second thing is...
You can buy those these days.
Not at the LSE, you could. It's very, very rigorous. But
and left wing.
No, you're joking. I was the the first president of the Students' Union from the Labour Party for years. Anyway.
And did you meet Mick Jagger there?
Yeah. Listen, can I say, the other thing is maybe. That is a prognostication. It is an assumption that might happen. Well, the moon might be made of
No. Economic experts can see no other way out.
Which experts?
The experts who dictate policy in this country.
I've been told...
Give us some names.
Listen, if you were Statler and Waldorf, apparently I'm Miss Piggy, one of our viewers.
Never!
And they said I've got to get bossy with you to shut you up.
Miss Piggy, listen, whoever said
Stephen,
that, I want you outside in the car park.
I don't mind that. I'll take that. Steve, I've got a thicker skin than that.
Stephen,
Stephen and Mike, we've got to move
violence on this programme.
Kermit, you have to shush as well. Now, an independent school in Leicestershire is planning to close due to financial challenges, including that VAT. We're going to talk to one of the parents in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. This is Britain's Newsroom from us Muppets. See you in a minute.
Hi there and welcome along to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Staying cold today for all of us with a mix of sunny spells and wintry showers for many, but in the south the risk of some more prolonged wintry weather, and that's because an area of low pressure is sending some milder and wetter weather in from the Atlantic, and that's going to bump into the cold air that's resident across the UK, and we'll have a messy mixture of rain, sleet and snow for southern counties of England. So some places we'll just see rain, others will see sleet and snow and some accumulations of snow possible at lower levels, a centimetre or two. That's enough to cause disruption in the south of England, but over hills 5 to 10 centimetres are possible, and that snow will continue into the evening as temperatures drop. Meanwhile, well, we've already seen some decent lying snow across the north and west of Scotland into much of Northern Ireland, and those snow showers will continue during the rest of Wednesday, interspersed by clear spells, and there'll be plenty of dry and clear weather for central and southern Scotland through the day. Northern England, the Midlands, much of Wales away from the south, as well as parts of East Anglia, seeing a lot of cloud developing through the afternoon, but otherwise mostly dry. And it's a cold night for all of us. In the south, we've got the system clearing away and with clear skies forming. Whether you've got the rain, sleet or snow through the day, we'll see ice patches forming. And elsewhere, where we've got those wintry showers continuing, certainly the risk of slippery surfaces first thing Thursday, because it will be a cold start to the day, widely -4, -5 Celsius, and in some places where we've got lying snow, minus double figures. Now, we start off Thursday with that cold air in place, but also with plenty of sunshine. And in fact, it's a mostly fine day. Dry with long spells of crisp winter sunshine, still a cold wind blowing and still some wintry showers in the north and parts of the west.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very good morning. We'll head straight to Andrew and Bev in just a few moments. First, though, we'll look at the headlines just after 11:30. Well, the top story, Elon Musk has been accused of making ridiculous claims about grooming gangs, with Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips telling him to crack on with getting to Mars. It comes as the scandal in Rotherham is back in the spotlight, with details revealing children as young as 11 were brutally abused by organised gangs. Downing Street says the Prime Minister is working to protect children and halve violence against women. But Reform UK's Nigel Farage has threatened an unofficial inquiry if the government doesn't act soon. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer has also accused Conservative MPs of putting retweets over the protection of children by pushing for a new investigation into child grooming. Kemi Badenoch is backing that plan to launch another inquiry, even though a major investigation wrapped up in 2022 and made key recommendations. The Prime Minister says this could delay crucial child safety laws and called the move short-sighted in an interview. Tributes are pouring in today for a 14-year-old aspiring rapper who was fatally stabbed on a bus in southeast London on Tuesday afternoon. The attack, described by police as a horrendous crime, happened just before 2:30 in the afternoon in Woolwich. Messages featuring doves have appeared on social media, posted under a rap video of the boy performing. Anti-knife crime charity Project Lifeline says the teenager had himself laid flowers for another victim killed in the same area just 2 weeks ago. Police say they are now working at pace to identify those responsible. A state of emergency has been declared in California as a massive wildfire sweeps through Los Angeles, forcing thousands to flee. Firefighters are battling fierce winds and turning to homes into raging infernos. Over 30,000 residents have been evacuated, with more than 13,000 buildings now in danger. The latest pictures show neighbourhoods engulfed in flames as people abandon their cars and run for safety. Millions of Californians are now on high alert as that blaze continues. Here, meanwhile, Britain is bracing for a deep freeze as temperatures are set to plunge as low as minus 15 degrees this week, the coldest of the winter so far. The Met Office has issued fresh snow and ice warnings for northern Scotland and Northern Ireland. And the UK Health Security Agency is also warning of rising health risks, extending its cold weather alert for England right through until Sunday. Meanwhile, flood alerts are still in place, but conditions are much drier. And let's just bring you a breaking update from Italy this hour. We're hearing, sadly, that a body believed to be that of one of two British men has been found in the Dolomites, the mountains there in Italy. That's after 36-year-old Aziz Ziriat and Samuel Harris, who's also 35, vanished after sending their last known messages from the Trentino region on New Year's Day and then didn't catch their scheduled flight home on the 6th of January. Rescue teams say they did resume their search today, uncovering a body buried in the snow in an area where that phone signal was last recorded. Earlier, their backpacks and gear were also found in a hut where they were thought to have been sheltering. So at this stage, unconfirmed, but we are hearing reports that one of two British men have been found dead in Italy. Well, next we'll take a quick look at the markets and then we'll hand you straight back to Andrew and Bev.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Crash Law 24 sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
So here's a look at the markets for you this morning. The pound will buy you $1.2433 and 1.2049 euros. The price of gold, £2,135.66 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 8,261 points.
Crash Law 24 sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
It is 11:39. We're on the telly, Andrew Pearce. This is Britain's Newsroom with me and Andrew reading the paper.
No, I'm just trying to find a story that we're about to talk about.
Now, an independent school in Leicestershire is set to close after being hit by financial challenges following the introduction of VAT to school fees.
Loughborough Amherst School, which is facing rising operational costs, is part of a local foundation with other independent schools in the area.
The government has said that money raised from the reforms is expected to help fund 6,500 new teachers in state schools in England. But actually, now we're finding out that this tax is not going to be hypothecated in that way. So it's not going to be ring-fenced for that. It could just be spent on posh dinners for MPs.
No, what they're saying is that it will pay for the free breakfast for kids in our primary schools, but that's 750,000 max, 750 million maximum. Where's the rest of the money going? It'll disappear into a black
Of course
hole.
it will, and just get wasted. So let's speak now to our parent, Ben Smithwell. Morning, Ben. Morning.
Good morning, both.
So you have children at Amherst School. What's happened?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning. I think, first of all, before I talk, I'd just like to say thank you very much for covering this. I think the rest of the media has been a little bit quiet so far and slow out of the blocks of this issue. Yes, I've got 2 children in the school, one in the primary and one in the senior end of the school there as well. And we were made aware of the potential closure just on Monday, right before they went back to school on Tuesday. So it's been a terrible week for, I suppose, teachers, children, SEND specialists, catering staff, janitorial, clinical, admin staff alike. It's a terrible time.
And does this mean you've got to find somewhere for your children right now?
Yeah, and this is the difficulty. I think it gets right to the heart of the matter, actually. I think you'll find that Loughborough Amherst School will become emblematic of the type of school that you'll see shutting down over the short term. It's not perhaps the stereotype of what people would imagine an independent school is. It's not an elite, Etonian-esque sort of an environment. And neither are the parents there. You know, we're not sort of multi-billionaires. We're people, working people, sort of just doing the best we can and making sacrifices to do the best for our children. There are a lot of children at this school, I think this is very, very relevant actually both, that cannot access the curriculum at ordinary state schools. Neither can they be adequately provided for in the more selective end of the independent provision due to their special educational or disability needs there and mental health issues on top of that as well. And it's really heartbreaking to point out a lot of the children that are catered for so beautifully in a little environment such as Amherst, with its very, very mature SEND provision, they have already been through the state sector and failed by it. Some of them, in addition, have already been to the independent sector and they've been failed by that as well. And now Amherst is due to close also, and they are quite literally running out of options.
How many pupils are there, if you don't mind me asking? How big is the school?
So across the primary school and the secondary, it is, I believe it's just under 300 children, probably about 290, something like that. So it's not a big school at all. The issue is I've spoken to several parents, heartbreakingly, in the last 24 hours, where their children do have various different educational needs, whether it's dyslexia, dyspraxia, autism, or whatever. And they've been approaching their local in-catchment state schools. They have already been declined places. They have been told that the local schools in catchment are already full.
So what's happened? What about your kids? What's going to happen?
So we are enormously fortunate. I'll say it up front. So we've managed to find already places for both our children in another independent school within the same school group, actually. So disruptive though it is and heartbreaking though it is, because the children will lose lots of their friendships at critical ages of 8 and 13, particularly for my daughter. You know, she's just turning 13, and for various different reasons, a lot of the girls are dispersing into lots of different schools because they cannot be provided for adequately within the local school network.
And this is specifically because the school can no longer afford to stay open because of the financial situation, including the VAT on private school fees.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. You're spot on there. It's a triple whammy, actually. It's the VAT on school fees, it's the revisions to business rates, and it's also the effect of the rise in employers' NI as well.
Yeah.
So those 3 things at once. Again, bear in mind, you'll see lots of Loughborough Amhersts close over the next year or so because they're small and they are working often, I think, to quite paper-thin margins. They're very vulnerable financially.
OK, fascinating, Ben. We wish you all the best. Keep in touch with us, Ben Smithwell there, who's a parent from Loughborough Amherst Schools.
If they had to introduce this policy, they should have done it at the end of the term in the summer, rather than disrupting kids halfway through.
One of many. Right, up next, farmers are about to protest in East Yorkshire this morning about the government's inheritance tax raid. But first, let's see what's happening in sunnier climes.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast. Unsettled at times across western parts of Europe with some stronger winds and perhaps some outbreaks of rain, but elsewhere it should be largely settled. Fairly breezy around Madeira, though largely dry, just a bit cloudy, perhaps some thicker cloud moving into parts of Portugal with a risk of some rain, and also fairly breezy around coasts. But elsewhere it is going to be largely settled, lots of dry weather around, though perhaps just a few showers around northern parts of Italy. And the remaining largely settled as we head into the weekend, just a slight dip in temperatures by Saturday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
And fashionistas are keen to see which new trends are set to hit the catwalk.
Well, our next guest is very well placed to share her predictions with us after being a contestant on hit ITV series Dress the Nation, as well as being an upcycling and sewing consultant.
Wow. Joining us now is Tendai Murewe. I want to go back to you appearing on the ITV Dress the Nation.
Right.
Tell us about that experience. What was that like?
Oh, that was one of my highlights as a upcycling consultant. I learned to sew in my kitchen 5 years ago. And then, during COVID, just making masks. Then the next thing I was on a Dress the Nation, making dresses in front of TV. Yeah, it was just incredible. I think we all had all these clothes that we have, but we don't know what to do with them. So mainly I started with men's jackets, taking off the sleeves and putting it like a print on.
I've tried this. I've tried taking off my sleeves before. I now have about 3 jackets with no sleeves. I never managed to put them back on.
You need to come to a workshop.
You
need to come to a workshop.
I need an upcycling consultant. 2025. What can we expect, fashion-wise?
I think bold prints are back. People are loving. I think you walk on the streets in frollals and oversized men's jackets.
So the exact opposite. We have drastically underperformed this morning. You're just saying not like us.
We just woke up this morning and thought it's winter, it's cold, it's grey.
Grey, miserable.
Is that not the way to go?
No, it is. It's still, I think because fashion is expressive. It's whatever you want to express yourself.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes. Thank you for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're going to cross over now to our GB News Yorkshire and Humber reporter Anna Riley, because she's with the farmers who are not giving up on this protest. Anna, where are you? Morning.
Good morning to you both. Yes, we're here at Beverley Westwood in the town of Beverley, where many farmers on their tractors, you can see one reversing just behind us now, are gathering, and it's all because there's a meeting this afternoon where the council, a motion is going to be put forward at the council to back British farmers and to repeal that inheritance tax. So councillors are calling on the full council to write to the Chancellor, to write to the Prime Minister, to repeal the family farm tax. I'm joined this morning by Anna Longthorpe. She's a pig farmer in East Yorkshire. Anna, just tell us what this means to you, the council giving support and the large number of tractors and farmers that have turned out today.
Well, I mean, it just goes to show the strength of feeling and we're not backing down. It's all amplifying the message to the government that they have got this wrong.
What does it mean to you? Just tell us a little bit about your farm and what the inheritance tax would mean.
Well, the biggest concern is it's putting a huge amount of pressure on the elder generations, not just my family, those in poor health. They're having to make some really, really tough decisions that they shouldn't be having to make. Up until now, it's always been the advice that you keep the asset until you die. Now, these elderly generations have been put in an impossible situation whereby most devastating effects will be that they feel that the best way forward would be for them not to be here come next April. Any policy that has that kind of devastating consequence has got to be, it's got to be reviewed. It's totally unacceptable. There aren't words strong enough for it.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for updating us here this morning. So we'll be live throughout the afternoon, following the farmers, following the tractors and keeping updated on this council meeting. And of course, looking ahead to tomorrow as well, where Steve Reid says that he's going to get a better deal for farmers at that conference, the farming conference in Oxford.
That's Anna Riley. Steve Reid, of course, is the Environment Secretary in his posh wellies.
Yeah, well, now listen, after PMQs today, it's Tom and Gloria. What's coming up today, guys?
Well, we'll have to wait for PMQs to watch that, but what we do know is that we want our listeners and viewers to start sending in their questions now, because the show's different. We've put their questions to our panel.
Absolutely, and we're looking ahead to what the Prime Minister will say, particularly around this amendment that looks like it will be brought forward this afternoon in the House of Commons. Might there be that vote for MPs to say whether they want or do not want an inquiry into grooming gangs? That will be a very testy moment.
Fantastic.
Chris Hope will be live from Westminster. He's normally here. I've got the lovely Tom, but Chris Hope will be bringing us the news on that and much more straight after PMQs too.
OK, thank you both. That will be PMQs at midday. Don't go anywhere, though. Quick wrap and we'll be right back.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's another cold start to the day, widely below freezing, but a sunshine and wintry showers sort of day expected for many. However, we are keeping our eye on a system that's moving up from the southwest, bringing some rain, sleet and snow. More on that in a moment. For the time being, we've got further sleet and snow showers moving into the north of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Fewer compared with the last couple of days, but still some significant snow building up across northern Scotland, particularly over hills. And it's going to stay cold. It's going to feel especially cold in the northerly wind across northern parts of the UK, but plenty of sunshine elsewhere. However, through the afternoon and into the evening, we are watching out for this area of rain, sleet and snow likely to affect southern counties of England. Now, worst case scenario is this will bring a decent covering across southern counties of England, leading to a lot of disruption. But more likely is it will be a patchy, slight covering of snow for most, with any more significant snow confined to the likes of Dartmoor or Salisbury Plain. The more significant snow continues across the north of Scotland, particularly around coastal areas, as well as parts of Northern Ireland into North Wales and northwest England. And as this system pulls away by the end of the night, well, it's good to turn frosty and indeed icy widely across the UK, with once again temperatures down to -3 to -5 Celsius. Most places seeing those kinds of temperatures, but in some spots, particularly where we've got snow cover further north, minus double figures are possible. That means another freezing start to the day on Thursday. Plenty of sunshine and a crisp winter's day for the vast majority is expected. So it's good to stay dry with sunny skies in many southern, central and eastern parts of the country. But again, northern Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, perhaps Wales seeing further sleet, snow and hail showers. It stays cold until the end of the week before it turns much milder into the weekend.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£50,000 in tax-free cash is like having over £4,000 each month to play with for a whole year. And it could be yours in the biggest Great British giveaway so far. That could be a holiday each month, your mortgage covered, or just the ability to send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network outbreak message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Teenage girls are out drinking their male peers in the UK at a greater rate than any other European country. Yes, more than a third of 15-year-old girls in the UK report getting repeatedly drunk, compared to less than a quarter of boys the same age. I suppose what I'd say to this is, boys, what are you doing? Pull yourself together. Well, joining me now is the editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths, and the former Labour advisor, Matthew Larser. Charlotte, you're going to have to speak up on behalf of girls the country over here. 15-year-old girls boozing much more than their male counterparts.
I think it's to do with the pain threshold, so we can handle hangovers better.
Do you get hangovers when you're 15 years old?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I was drinking hooch and smelling...
Absolutely. Whatever happened to hooch?
Yeah. And I just think we can tolerate it better. Right. And I don't know, I grew up in that kind of wild child 90s drinking era. I'm showing my age a bit. And, God, we drank a lot as teenage girls. I mean, it's actually shocking now in retrospect.
Well, I also think in terms of boys versus girls, I wonder if we've got a bit of a thing about... I mean, the old cliché that girls develop quicker, they can become social quicker. They can certainly get into the pub more easily because they look older. Yeah. You know, because of makeup, etc. I wonder if the boys are all just, you know, in their rooms playing on their devices, as it were. You know, as people increasingly dominated by screens, whether in fact there's an issue about socialisation, about whether in fact, you know, the lads are not out there socialising.
They have little sips of wine in France from the age of like 12 and they're absolutely fine about it. Yeah. Whereas we all know what happens to British girls, because I was one of them. You turn, however, old enough to get a bottle of Smirnoff Ice, and boy,